Michael. Whoa, Michael. Michael? Michael?
I'm not a horse, by the way.
It's Friday night.
Whoa.
Whoa, Michael. Whoa.
Here's some hay.
I've got a whole bushel of news apples over here for you later. Don't worry.
Here's a sugar cube.
It's got some sugar cubes in it. No, Michael, welcome back. I'm actually really happy to have you here today because we have some of the most boring FTC news to talk about.
But we know how to make it interesting.
And only you and I find it as fascinating.
I love it. I love it so much. It's like Game of Thrones.
Yeah. Fuck Final Fantasy 16. I'm all about reading The Verge's coverage of the FTC Microsoft. I'm like, oh shit, Bobby Kotick's on the stand.
It's like, yeah, you keep reading it. It's got like Godfather levels of betrayal in it. And you're like, this is fascinating.
Yep. So we're gonna get to all that and more this week on the RageSelect podcast here on RageSelect, as previously mentioned. No, I didn't mention that I'm Jeff. Jeff.
You were about to, and then you, for some reason, second guessed if you said it or not.
I say it every time, and I can never remember anymore whether I've said it or not. It just comes out.
That's fair.
Who are you?
I'm Mike.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yes.
That's what I was calling you earlier.
Yes. It turns out I'm a different Michael from an alternate reality or something.
Oh, shit. All right. Hopefully you know about gaming news as well.
I have long hair in my universe. That would be interesting, though.
I miss having hair.
I do too, to be honest.
I miss having hair. It's nice. Enjoy your hair.
Yes.
That's something that nobody tells you. Like, no matter what. If you have hair, enjoy it. You may not someday. Someday it may be gone. And then you'll be like...
I regret not dyeing my hair at least once.
Oh, yeah.
I never did it.
Yeah.
That would have been fun.
Think of all the stuff you could do. You can comb it a certain way or like a different way.
The closest I ever did to dyeing it is there's like that paint that you can use.
Manic Panic?
I forgot what it was called specifically, but I gave myself a fantastic, like a Mr. Fantastic.
Oh, white
streak through my hair in high school.
I had that.
It's the closest I ever did.
That one Halloween where my hairdresser friend grayed up my hair so I could be the most interesting man in the world.
That's right. I remember that.
Back when I had the hair.
I remember you doing that.
Hair. I love it.
That's all on our beards.
Yeah. True. Anyway, we have... it's going to be a strange week this week. We have Annapurna Interactive did a whole thing, and then we've got, we're mostly just going to, you know how normally it's like I'll put the Microsoft merger news, and then there's 18 more stories. It's like, no. We only have 6 more stories after that because there was so much of it that's just that one fucking news story.
That news story is the biggest fucking thing happening in gaming in a decade.
But before we get to that, Michael... You watch anything interesting? You done anything interesting? You want to talk about anything?
Well, the review's out for it, but I don't mind talking about it. I watched Indiana Jones 5 on Wednesday.
Every time I go to Metacritic to see if the new games that came out are good or bad, I see it's got a 60 or a 40 or I don't think it's a 40. It's a 60 or something.
Probably a 60. I wouldn't be surprised. It is one of the most mid movies I've ever seen in my life.
Okay.
Because the thing is, when you watch it, here's the thing. I like it better than Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Specifically
that's
because...
not much.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Specifically because it's consistent throughout the whole movie.
Okay.
But that's a bad thing.
Consistently mid?
Because it's consistently mid through the entire fucking movie. Because even Kingdom of the Crystal Skull has some fun highs in it.
Sure.
The chase scene in the campus, the Area 51 sequence is a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. But I can't...
Shia LaBeouf's entire character.
I can't really say any of that about the fifth one. There's one action sequence that I could maybe say is kind of like that.
Yeah.
But it's so this is not that interesting that it's not nearly as fun. Which is just in the trailer where he gets the horse and he's...
I haven't watched the trailers. I don't care. As far as I'm concerned, they've ripped my boy Mutt out of the story. They set him up to be the new Indy. I want to see that torch get passed. They passed the torch, and then he was like, "Give it back!
Give me that shit, you fucking asshole!"
I wanted to see, I want to see the 1970s adventures of Mutt Jones or whatever the fuck his last name is, Mutt Marion or
I forgot what his last name was.
Ravenwood.
Williams?
Mutt Ravenwood.
I think it was Williams.
What?
Because it was the dad. It was the pilot. You remember that's what he says, that because he thinks his dad was a pilot, and that's where he got his name from.
Jacques from the first one with the snake.
He was a World War II guy apparently. It's mentioned in the fucking movie.
Okay,
but I've watched Kingdom more than you have, so that's the reason I remember it.
yes.
But
I only watched it once, and I didn't really pay all that much attention.
He tells Indy specifically he thinks that's who his dad was before he found out it was Indy. But I digress. But yeah, it's consistently fine. the whole way through. And that's like
a glowing recommendation.
That's the problem. I can't like be like, you're gonna love this movie. I'm gonna be like, you're gonna be like, that was okay. And like, because there's some genuine like fun moments in it, but you're never like, oh my god, that was amazing, and I can't wait to see that moment again. Like the way you are in Temple of Doom with the bridge or something.
Yeah,
you're like, oh my god, he's old as shit now. Because you're very conscious of the fact that Indiana Jones is sitting for most of the movie.
Oh, God.
Like, because there's so many action sequences that are like, he's sitting down. I don't think he stood up most of this movie, kind of thing.
Indiana Jones and the Chair of Destiny.
Because there's this part, there's a part, and because everybody's seen this in some of the trailers, is there's a long intro sequence that sets up the Dial of Destiny.
Yeah,
which is it's a point that takes place in 1944.
Yeah,
where they deep faked a guy to be Indiana Jones. And Chris and everybody were like, I thought it looked great. And I was like, you people are fucking insane. Because every time I looked at it, I'm like, I am looking at a PS5 graphic face in my
Tron Legacy bullshit.
In my front. It was better than that. I'll give it that.
Okay.
Because it is actually pretty good if it fooled Chris and Ben and Marco, but it didn't fool my video game ass. Because my video game ass was like, that shit is a nice looking PS5 graphic on top of a person's body.
Yep.
And I feel like I'm taking crazy pills because nobody else seems to notice.
Yep.
Because like at first I'm like, that's pretty impressive, but then it lingers.
Yep.
And then it focuses on it, and then it stays there consistently. And it got slightly better once you got the hat on, because at that point there's less to deepfake.
Sure.
But even then, like,
what happened to just good old putting a fake nose on a guy that looks like Harrison Ford? Like,
it's because everybody knows what Harrison Ford looked like in Indiana Jones at that point.
But everybody like, you could find a guy. How many people are there on the Earth, Michael? It was like 7 billion people or something like that, or 3 trillion people.
They were very proud of what they were doing, Jeff.
Okay.
They were. That's the problem, is they were too proud of it.
Okay.
And that sequence takes up like the first 20 minutes or 20 to 30 minutes of that movie.
Nope.
And it's the only time I was like, well, this could have been a fun Indiana Jones movie if that was actually Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
But like, it's not.
I'm a brave and controversial opinion from Jeff from RageSelect. I know that's going to shock all of you that Jeff thinks the past should be put to bed and not dug up like a skeleton and then danced around in front of people in a morbid fashion. I believe that the end of Indiana Jones and the Holy Grail one, what was that?
Last
Crusade, where he rides off into the sunset with his father and Sala.
That's a great ending.
It's a great ending. You just leave it there. They rode off into the sunset. The end. The Indiana Jones was done. Do we need a young Indiana Jones? Nope. Do we need an old Indiana Jones? Nope. That was the Indiana Jones. You want to do it again? Reboot it. Start over from the beginning. Cast somebody new. And look,
Harrison Ford will never let it happen, by the way. That's the only reason they haven't done it.
Wait for that motherfucker to die. And
That's
then,
the only reason it hasn't happened.
Cast John Hamm or like, I don't know, somebody like, find a guy. They already did it. It's called The Mummy.
That's true. They did.
Just find a rakishly good-looking like guy and then make your new Indiana Jones with that. Don't keep dragging fucking octogenarian Harrison Ford out. Dude, I don't want to watch an 80-year-old man pretend like he's an action hero.
It's funny because the beginning of the movie shares themes with Toy Story, and that's not a joke.
What, I don't want to play with you anymore. Like,
it kind of is, because like the movie, like, I was watching one of the trailers before I got here, and the trailer is just like, I've been looking my whole life for this. But when you watch the actual movie, Indiana Jones is like, I don't want to do this. I really don't want to be here. Not like Harrison Ford. Harrison Ford clearly wants to make this movie.
Sure.
But Indiana Jones as a character is like, I actually really don't want to be on an adventure right now.
Yeah.
I am 80 years old. I'm tired. I really don't want to be doing this right now, and I'm very depressed, because there's like, the opening of the movie is like, because I found out what's going on in the parade in the trailers is that everybody's like excited because it's post moon landing.
Okay.
And so no one gives a shit about anything Indy has to say, because that's the reason I bring up the Toy Story thing, because he's the Woody in this universe where Buzz Lightyear now exists.
Okay.
And everyone's just like, who gives a shit about Indiana Jones?
Yeah.
The movie definitely can't set up anything from here on, though. That's
so
the thing.
wait for it not just to come onto streaming, but onto one of the free streaming services that you already signed up for that you don't have to pay additional money to see it on.
You can rent it. I say it's worth a rental, maybe
$20.
But I mean, like in what used to be rental time frames. You know what I mean?
Oh,
when it was like an $8 thing,
right? Okay,
like a matinee, I guess, like a matinee time frame.
Okay,
like if it's a Tuesday and you got like, and it's like $5 that day, it's worth looking at.
Well, I keep looking for a reason to. I was right on the verge of canceling Hulu, and then It's Always Sunny came back. And
That's
last
the other
week,
thing I've been doing.
I was looking for something to watch to talk about on this show, and so I watched The Bear.
Everyone loves The Bear.
There's 2 seasons of The Bear. Like
I haven't seen it personally.
It's good. Like the basic. I wish that people would have talked more about the. I mean, I think maybe somebody did. The basic premise is just that there's this guy that used to be like in one of the greatest restaurants of all time. He was like a chef. He was like this prodigy, super good chef. His brother runs this Chicago like chopped beef deli kind of place that's been around for 1,000,000 years. His brother dies. He moves back and he takes the place over, and it's full of like these chefs that have been working there. He's trying to kind of change it up. He's kind of clashing with his cousin / friend and like this group of you know what? It's really just one of those like, if you're, I think that there's 2 types of people in this world. I think there's a type of people that will see like establishing shots of Chicago and have some kind of feeling in their heart about it, and people that will see like establishing shots of Chicago and just be like, that's a place.
That's where The Dark Knight was filmed.
Right. Also, there's one type of person in this world that will watch people cooking really elaborate stuff and be like, ooh, and then there's other people that are just like, I don't fucking give a shit. So if you fall into that first category of people that are affected by establishing shots of Chicago and food. The thing, okay, here's the thing. The first season is 8 20-minute episodes. It's not really or 25-minute episodes. So it's not like a huge time investment, right?
No.
Second season is 10, 20. The second season is 10 episodes, but they start to like really balloon out. And there's an episode about 2/3 of the way through that is like, it is jam-packed with stars. Like, it's like a flashback to a family Christmas.
Okay.
Nobody talked about this. I'm going to put it out there because I think that, like, I'm just making the case. Either you've already watched this or nothing I say is going to get you to watch it. And these aren't spoilers. I'm just going to say actor names. Like, the actors in this flashback, it's like Bob Odenkirk, Jamie Lee Curtis, fucking John Mulaney is in
That's
there.
Crazy you should.
What's her face from Community? The one that plays the blonde.
That could be anybody.
The blonde. Yeah. Like she's actually a character that's been in the show, but she hasn't shown up before. And then suddenly it's like, oh, that's the actress.
Okay. I know her name, but I can't remember.
Who's that lady that looks like Kristen Wiig, but she's the famous? She's like the she's like the serious actress. I always get them confused.
The problem is I don't know because I have no idea what you're talking about.
She's in American Horror Story.
I also have not seen that.
I think she's got like a slight lisp, maybe, or
you would have to look her up because I have no fucking idea what you're talking about. But as you're doing that, I'm just going to mention everybody I know who's watched it, who's worked in a restaurant at any point, has said that it has completely and utterly give them PTSD flashbacks. Because it's one of the, apparently it's like the most realistic to like working at a restaurant type of shows.
It's funny because I saw an op-ed from a real chef in like it was like some mad article I read
think
online.
I saw that. It was on like
and
Twitter.
It was like, I really wish that Hollywood would quit making every kitchen into like a toxic mess, because I've worked in kitchens my entire life and most of them are just fine. Like, they're just fine. Like, we all go to work, we trust each other, we do our work, we get the food out, and then you go watch a movie and it's just like either abusive or like it's like waiting or something.
Yeah, but the funniest thing about that op-ed is every comment on the tweet was like, this dude is full of shit. Because it was so many people who work at restaurants who are like, no, it's exactly like The Bear.
Sarah Paulson.
Sarah Paulson?
Sarah Paulson. I always get her. I don't know why I get her confused with Kristen Wiig. They've got some.
I have no idea. I didn't know her name, but now I know exactly what you're talking about.
I feel like they've got some semi-severe features in common. I don't know why. But anyway, that episode was like an hour long, and it was fucking crazy and great and stressful. And it's a good show, especially if you're into that whole like watching people make the food and then all the stresses that come around that stuff. And the it's the biggest Chicago family. And we all yell at each other, but we all love each other anyway. That
deep
kind
dish
of thing.
pizza, deep dish.
So yeah. Anyway, yeah, if you got Hulu, it's worth it. I don't know. I think FX does like they did some good stuff. They did that. What's that one with the quantum computing called? That came out like 2 years ago.
I know what you're talking about. I don't remember.
That was good. They've done some really good like limited series.
Yeah, the weird thing about The Bear season 2 is they dropped it all at once.
Yeah, I was surprised to see that it was all on there.
Very confusing. Especially since it still said it was like an FX thing.
Yeah.
I was like, what a weird thing to do. Especially with like the middle of like a strike going on. Like you think you would have tried to milk that shit.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. We need to go back and watch some more of these because so far a lot of the stuff that they've done I've quite enjoyed. Oh, I forgot that Terriers was a limited series too. That one's good.
Well, it was not supposed to be.
That's true. That's true.
So as Randy has an entire podcast about it, where he even got to talk to people who were in it. So
yeah.
If you ever get a chance, look that up. It's pretty good.
Let's jump in. Annapurna had an interactive showcase. There's not a lot here.
Every time I hear that name, I expect it to be some hipster that lives here in Austin. I saw Annapurna the other day, and she's like, I make games now. I'm like, that's interesting.
Well, Annapurna, I feel like Annapurna has a bad... let's turn that off. Annapurna has a bad habit of, like, there's one game on here where it's like, all right, now let's go check in with this guy where the game has a whole trailer on Steam, but it's one of those like, let's just talk to this guy for like 5 minutes about his life.
So like, the dev talking about something.
Man, I don't give a shit about your life, bro. Show me your game.
This game was inspired by the time I hung out with my brother or something, and they're like, dude, I don't give a shit right now. The guy
literally was like, sometimes, I like to just like drive down the street to this park, and there's like nobody there, and it really helps me to like think about like what I want in my game, and I'm just like, I don't care. Like, I'm sorry. Like,
show me the game. Like
I'm watching The Bear, okay? They artificially make everybody dysfunctional in that so that I care about it. But
I care about the behind the scenes once I see the game.
Right, exactly.
Like, stop talking about it before I see it.
I don't even care about the behind the scenes of most games, Michael. I'll be honest. Sometimes it's interesting.
The only time I do is when the game was a clusterfuck
when
and I want to find out how it happened.
Yes.
Which is why what happened is such a great fucking YouTube thing.
Absolutely. So we're gonna rip through these pretty fast. It wasn't like a whole shitload. We got a new trailer for Lorelei and the Laser Eyes. This is from the people that made Sayonara Wild Hearts.
Oh yeah.
It's a very strange trailer. It's like this it reminds me of like Suda51 games, of this kind of like black and white with these like severe colors on it. And the trailer, you can't hear it because you didn't get a chance to watch all these, right?
I didn't get a chance.
It's got this very ominous like voiceover talking about how like when they try to recruit you, they'll do this, and like you won't see their eyes, and then they talk about like there's a point where they start flashing up these symbols, and they're like, remember the mazes, remember the mazes, remember the mazes, remember the mazes, and it's just like, okay, I have absolutely no idea what this game is, but it's
an elaborate maze game, Jeff.
I don't know. It's The Witness 2. But like it's got a good name, and it looks like Suda51 made it, kind of.
I'm cool with that.
So, and I liked Sayonara Wild Hearts. That was
a very popular game.
It wasn't hard or anything, but it was fun to play.
The soundtrack was really good.
Yeah. That was kind of the whole thing. So I don't know. We don't have very much more information about this outside of this thing, but people have glowing laser eyes.
Yeah. And mazes. Lots of mazes.
And then like the mazes. Remember the mazes. I'm trying to see if there's anything more in this article. It's not clear what this maze is or why you're there, but it's relevant to events in the past, present, and future. There's a problem with getting into exceptionally artsy and or fartsy video games where you're just like, yeah, but what kind of game is it? And it's like, it's whatever you want. And I'm like, that's not an answer. You tell me what it is.
My favorite is when like it's super elaborate and then it just turns out to be a walking simulator.
Right.
Like, well, that's fucking pointless.
Yeah. I mean, Sayonara Wild Hearts could be kind of considered to be somewhat of a walking simulator.
Somewhat, if you're depending on how you go approach it, I guess.
A motorcycle simulator. Yeah. We saw a game update for Cocoon. This is the one that's being made by one of the guys that worked on Inside and Limbo.
I definitely made a Wolford Brimley joke the last time we talked about this.
Oh.
I know we did. I'm just not going to do it.
I have a really hard time with this one, Michael, because like I kind of get this. It's an interesting idea. This like going into these worlds and then coming back out of the world. This kind of layered thing where you literally pick up a world and then use it to solve a puzzle and then put it down and go into that world and change it around type of thing. But I really have to see how. It's one of those things where I couldn't make any judgment on it until I actually played it.
Yeah.
Because it could end up being really compelling, but I don't know if it's really compelling to watch because all you're not actually seeing what the game itself, like the joy is going to be in figuring out some of the puzzles, right?
Because right now it's just like you're just watching it happen, but you don't understand why it's happening.
Yes,
and that's really what it comes down to.
But we did get a release date for it,
and there are a lot of mini verses or whatever they call it in Rick and Morty.
Tinyverse. Yeah, it's coming out September 29th. It's also going to be on Game Pass. A lot of these things are on Game Pass, so
okay. Well, it makes sense because a lot of the artsy type people really like Game Pass because they get a large chunk up front.
Yeah,
and Xbox looks great because they increase what's on Game Pass.
Yeah. Okay, we can't just start talking about Game Pass yet.
I'm just saying that's why they would do. That's why they love that shit. Like the indie people.
Yeah,
it would explain why most of these are on there.
Next, we got a game reveal for Lush Foil Photography Sim.
What?
Boy, Michael, this is like, okay, I can't tell what this is.
Is it realistic Pokemon Snap?
It appears to be like walking around taking pictures of stuff, but I can't tell if there's any reason to be doing so, or like objective, or anything really. Like,
yeah, this is that one thing I just mentioned about walking simulators.
Yeah. There's a part where they show like having a drone and then using that to like take pictures. I'm not sure if just the act of simply taking a photograph is enough to compel me to play an entire video game.
Well, usually when you have something photography related in a video game, there's an objective that makes it more than just that.
Yeah.
Like when we play that one that we did on, I think it was a Patreon, where it was like, we'll take pictures of these specific things, and everything's like kind of wacky looking almost. Right. Or it's like I said, Pokemon Snap, where it's like, take pictures of specific things in this video game world. This is just literal normal photography.
Yeah, it seems that way. At the very end of this trailer, I know you don't you haven't seen this trailer, but it's like in very end they show a lot of different, like, taking snaps of various places outside, it's kind of Torii gates. The very end, there's this kind of like, there's this shot where it's like a figure standing in a field, and then it has the Lush Foil Photography Sim like logo, but like, I mean, this could just be like...
Could just be the guy taking photos. That's the issue.
It could be, or it could be a mystery that needs to be solved through your photography. And I'm like, is there something here, or is this just what is that? Like Trucker Simulator?
Oh, yeah.
Except with photos, where it's just like, take whatever photos you want. I'm like, I don't do that in real life, you guys. I don't know if...
Yeah. There's the fun thing is most people don't know if I exist or not because there's not a lot of photos of me hanging out with people.
Yeah. Dabba-dabba-doo.
Yeah, that's just fucking... That's weird. Like, I don't know what to say other than it looks like some photography stuff.
Yep, that's what it seems to be. I don't know. Maybe
like,
we'll
if this
find
came out
more.
during COVID, every photographer I know would have been all over it.
True.
But right now, no one cares because they can actually do it now.
Yeah. From there, very strange. We got a... Oh, okay. This is one of those other ones. We got a developer spotlight for... I forget what the Maru Mitu Games. This is a husband and wife game team. They're making a... they've made a few games in the past. They met when they were at a studio together. This is one of those, like, it doesn't show anything. It's just like, fucking, let's catch up with these two as they say that they fell in love and got married.
So my favorite thing about this thing is I made a joke about a guy hanging out with his brother.
Yeah.
And that was something he said.
Yeah. They've got their little workstations next to each other. They're making a game. I looked up their previous games. They're mostly phone games. They made one Steam game, and it's also on the Switch, called Captain Star 1. This is a clicker game.
Oh, Jesus.
With like a relatively decent art style. It makes me think that because there was previously Tap Captain Star and Captain Star 1 Origins, that they've mostly been making clicker games.
Probably.
So their latest game from their website, because I'm not going to talk about all this thing is just them talking about how much they like to make games and how they like to be married to each other.
No. Fuck them.
It's called Project D. And
throwing their happiness in my face.
It's just be taking place like at some point, like in the future, like it's some kind of futuristic thing. And it's like it's got a more of a realistic art style. Their previous games were very like simple, basic character designs.
A lot of them are probably like they probably treated them at more nowadays, especially as like practice.
Yeah,
because some people's games in the beginning are usually not always what they want to make.
Yeah,
but it's always good to like get an idea of what it takes to make a game that's at least fun to play.
Yeah. I don't know. Show me more of your game, and I will tell you whether I want to play it or not. The end. This is one of the problems with like I don't care how good your marriage is.
Yeah,
I care how good the games are. I'm not trying to be
Unless
a sourpuss.
It's like a marriage simulator or something, and it involves what you're doing.
Yeah,
but you've said nothing other than hey, I love my wife.
It's like I'm not unhappy for you, but like hearing about why you make video games is not interesting to me.
Here's my wife. We'll make the video games.
Unless you guys are going to move to Austin and we're going to be friends or something.
Sure, I guess.
Next, we got the reveal of To a T, which is the latest game from Keita Takahashi, who did Watam and Katamari.
Oh, okay.
You remember the guy who abused his employees so hard that they dissolved the entire
that guy
organization and like moved him into a new company? I'm kind of amazed that like nobody is really talking about that. This game is called To a T.
Oh, what's this game?
Yeah. It's about a little kid who has his arms permanently in a T pose, and
shows dominance.
His dog is like helping him do stuff, and or her. I don't know. I don't know if it's a lady or a guy or whatever. Maybe it's a lady. It seems to be like a lady wearing a skirt.
Yeah.
And it looks very cute. I do have some mixed feelings though, about the fact that this guy was like apparently a real piece of shit to work with. Like it's a catchy little song. This whole reveal is like a song where they're singing all the words down at the bottom, and it looks wacky, and it's got some fun little character designs.
That's the thing about this type of game is like it's got a wacky premise, because even Katamari has a wacky ass premise.
Yep.
So it's like that's kind of what's going on here. But yeah, that's the weird thing is you find these like wholesome games made by like the worst fucking people.
Yep.
You're like, how did this happen?
Yeah. So I don't know. We'll find out more. I mean, I guess the thing is that I need to go back and refresh myself on that story. If I remember correctly, it seems like he was working in a studio with a bunch of people, and that they all were like, this guy is a piece of shit and we hate working with him. And so if I remember correctly, the story was that Annapurna then like moved him out of that studio, made a new studio, and staffed it exclusively with like college interns who wouldn't know no better if you yelled at them or whatever. And I'm like, I don't like that.
No.
That's like the part where the bear left the hard restaurant in The Bear.
I still don't know what that means.
Yeah. The guy from Community yelled at him, so he left. From there, we got an update for that game, Flock. This one was again, Michael.
This game.
I'm getting too old for this shit. Okay, okay. So Flock is a game, we've seen it before, where you're flying around on the back of a bird and you're like getting little creatures to follow you around in a little flock.
Yeah.
And in this, they showed that this game has multiplayer. So this guy. He like meets up with his friend who's got their own flock, this lady, and they fly around and they talk about like, ooh, what's that blue one that you've got in your flock? And he's like, oh, that's a flibberty gibbet. You can get them from the fields over yonder. Let's go over there. And then they're like, oh, and then they show, oh, you've got to sneak up on the flibberty gibbet, and then like when you got don't wake it up, but then like you got to hit it, and there's a little mini game, and you got to like charm it with your little bird flappy song. And then it'll follow you. I'm like, okay, well then what happens?
Yeah, I was about to be like you that had a long pause. I'm like, so what's the next part? And it just follows you, I guess.
Yeah, and then there's a part where they're like, yes, you can also have sheep, and you can have your little sheep, and they eat grass, and then you can get them. They'll fly into your little flock as well. And if the sheep eat the grass, then they create wool, and you can use the wool to make clothes.
But why though?
Excellent question, Michael. Excellent question. I think that this might be one of them vibes games where you're just supposed to fucking hang out with your friends and collect flibberty gibbets and fucking space whales and like flying sheep and shit. And that's the whole point of the game.
I don't understand.
I really wish that these fucking arts and crafts majors would tell me what you do in these video games.
I want to meet the people who really love these games.
Yeah.
Just to figure out what their thought process is.
Yep.
Like legitimate. Like I don't mean that as like a mean thing. I mean that as in like where's the like how are you able to play these things not only just by yourself but with other people?
Well, if the only thing that makes sense to me is that some people play games to relax, right? They aren't interested in being challenged or stimulated. They're looking for it's like their life is already overstimulating. So what they want is a fucking chillaxing game to just sit down and like without an unstructured time fly around on a bird and collect some cute animals and show them to your friends and be like, "Isn't that cool?" The end.
Here's this is gonna sound weird, but it's like I think it's what it is.
Yeah.
I think it's mostly European gamers. Like that sounds weird. But I have a reason. I have an explanation for why that is.
Okay.
Because it's the reason why farm simulator games are so fucking expensive. Because those, for some reason, people in Europe love the shit out of those games, and those are the types of games that somebody would play to relax.
I don't know, man. You saw that Nintendo Direct last week. There were like 4 farming simulator games in there. Like everybody
again, European gamers.
I think Stardew Valley broke open the floodgates of cozy.
It did for those types of games, but that Flock is not that type of game.
Maybe
that's the thing.
Well, the problem is I don't even know what it is. Like you watched the whole thing.
Well, it could be like the flower game where you're just fucking doing flower shit.
Yeah, but you know in the flower game how you have to like fly to flowers and then you get the petals in the wind.
Yeah, you collect more petals.
Right.
So you collect more birds or whatever the fuck Flock's doing.
For why?
For reasons, Jeff. We just had this conversation.
Need some explanations. I need some further explanations.
I don't know enough about it to dispute it, is all I'm saying.
We got the reveal for a game called Ghost Bike. This I found out, I had to look this up because these guys aren't as good at oh no, I remember it now. This is by Messhoff. People may or may not remember this. This is a very strange logo. Messhoff is the studio that made Nidhogg 1 and 2.
Oh.
And they're making this game called Ghost Bike, and it appears that you are like riding a bike with a flaming skull on the front of it, not like Ghost Rider, but like a Tour de France bike that has a flaming skull on the front through kind of like a cel-shaded bike races.
That's interesting.
I don't know if there's more to it than that.
I think the idea is that the bike is possessed by a ghost. I think that's just the idea.
They talk in the trailer about being in the afterlife, so I don't know if this is... If you're racing to get the skull into the afterlife, it appears that there's some parts of this game that aren't races.
Well, maybe the idea is that whatever's ghost is possessed in the bike, it can only go to the afterlife if you do if you win the races and shit it wants to win or something. That's the only thing that makes sense to me.
I like the fact that
that's the case.
This shit is so obscure that you and I who literally have been watching like hundreds of trailers for our entire life are like, maybe this is the game.
That's true.
I might play that. Maybe
we might. We'll stumble into it eventually.
Hey, it's on Game Pass though.
That's
so,
true.
You give it a shot. Coming in 2024 on Game Pass. Let's see from there. Oh yeah, we developer spotlight with this guy. This is the guy I was talking about. He's got a man bun. He's got the hoodie.
I swear I've seen that guy serve coffee before.
A jacket. He's going to the park. The thing is, what's really interesting about this is that the game this guy is making. I'm going to show you what this guy is making. The game that this guy is making is looks good. It's called We Kill Monsters.
Sounds familiar.
It's supposed to be like a Monster Hunter style game, but kind of with this guy, like he's been working on it for a long time, and he's like been working kind of as a one-man team. It was originally going to be more lo-fi, but then he decided to make it more like 3D. In fact, he tells a really interesting story. The one thing I will say that's interesting is that he talks about how he kind of came to this like this inflection point where he was like, I had this 2D version of this game I was working on, but as I worked on it more and more, I thought it would be better. I think I want to make it as 3D. And so he literally deleted all of the 2D game development files to be like, I can't go back. I can't go back. It
forces him to keep like up the new version.
Yeah. But like, I'm showing you the trailer for this on Steam. And this is cool, right? Like kind of a crazy like Monster Hunter third person action adventure, but like dark, like The Witcher or something like that. It's a very like brooding kind of atmosphere.
Yeah. It looks really cool, actually.
And they don't show a single frame of that.
That's fucking weird.
They show this fucking guy skipping rocks and talking about deleting his projects and how he made a game and he's making another game. And also, Michael, I don't know when it became okay for people to wear just straight up weird greasy mustaches, but I kind of wish that we could go back to when it's not allowed anymore. It's like goatee, full beard, or like you could have a chin strap, but not just like a freestanding mustache, man. Are you a cop? Are you Tom Selleck? Well, then you can't have a mustache.
It depends on what the mustache is. Kind of like the size of it. Because my dad has a mustache, but he's also a mechanic, or he was he retired.
That's an acceptable.
So that's an acceptable type of mustache profession. So his beard would get caught on things, so it would make sense.
Yeah, but this guy. I'm revoking your mustache license, sir.
Yeah, your mustache doesn't work on you, unfortunately.
Well, it does. It makes him look like a creepy weirdo.
Well, the funniest thing is that, like...
Sorry, man. I'm so sorry.
No, to me, it reminds me of, like, old images of, like, people around the time of, like, when Steve Jobs first kind of started.
Right.
Like, if you told me that picture... Like, if you changed, like... the way that image there looks in a way that makes it look older, and you were like, this was a picture from the 1970s.
1979.
I believe you.
Yeah.
Because he has that look.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Because it's the only time that look kind of worked.
Very true. Very true.
And then it stopped right after that.
I think your game looks cool, guy, if you're watching this. Like, I think your game looks pretty cool, and I wish that they'd have just shown a trailer for the game instead of you, like, playing with your dogs and going to the park and shit.
It's neat, I guess.
Yep. Let's see.
This is why I don't like the Annapurna ones, because they're just so fucking most of them aren't actually any game stuff.
Moon Dawn is getting a platform update. This is that game that's all hand-drawn stuff that's kind of like a weird Eastern European like mystery horror game.
Okay.
But everything is like pencil drawn, even the 3D. It's all in 3D, but everything is like has a pencil texture to it, so it looks very striking. It's getting a native PS5 and Xbox Series X version, as well as updates to the main game. I didn't find this as compelling when I played it, but that's happening in is it now? It might be now. I don't know. Go look it up.
It's very vague.
We saw Bounty Star, which is that mech game that was like the last time we did this.
Yeah,
was
that's
like,
right. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that looks cool.
That was like the coolest thing they showed off at the time.
Yeah. It's still the coolest thing they showed off. The only problem I have with it, Michael, is that like, boy, it's just a little rough around the edges with the lighting and the 3D. Like, I don't know if this is something that's going to be sorted out when they get to the end of it, but it's just kind of got like, I kind of want it to be a little bit sharper, and it's got a little bit of like dullness to the models and the colors and stuff.
I can see that.
But it appears to be exactly what I wanted, where you're playing a giant mech game where you play as a mech bounty hunter lady, and then after you do your jobs, you go back to this abandoned gas station in the post-apocalypse, and you fix it up, and you plant crops, and you eat the crops. You'd use the crops to make a salad, and the salad gives you plus 5% to lock on or something, and like you take your mech out, you go shoot at people, and then you come back and
that's fun, actually.
Do it again.
Yeah,
that's the sort of thing I would do.
That's kind of neat.
So the only thing is, again, it's just like some of the graphics for this look a little off, like a little chunky.
It honestly, it gives that sort of indie-ness to it, though, because of it. Because it's not like, it's almost like super. I'm like saying professionally made just sounds like an asshole thing.
Yeah.
But you know what? Like the idea of like this was made by somebody that's not like super indie. It's like almost there, but it's just enough where it's still like indie as hell.
Yeah. Okay. I can see that. Yeah. So yeah, I think this game looks great. I really can't wait to play this one. Also, it's Bounty Star. I keep forgetting the subtitle, "The Morose Tale of Graveyard Clem," which I like.
That's a great subtitle.
It's kind of like Lorelei and the Laser Eyes, where I'm like, I don't know what this is, but that's a really fucking rocket name right there.
Yeah, you don't forget that name anytime soon.
This one's also coming to Game Pass next year. So many of these are on Game Pass. Keep saying that. By the way, Stray is going to be on Xbox.
Oh, okay, yeah, because that was a time exclusive, I assume.
Yep, they had a trailer where the Stray comes up and is like pushing the Xbox controller off the side of the coffee table, and that was pretty much it. Then they're like, it's Stray. It's going to be on the Xbox. Great. Huzzah. August 10th.
Good for them.
Yep. Then we got a big update for Thirsty Suitors.
This game.
I think Thirsty Suitors is looking better. We're seeing more of it. Like, this is the game, for anybody who doesn't know, where you're playing as this young lady. It's basically Scott Pilgrim, but with this Indian lady, I think.
Yeah, basically. That's really is what it is.
She come back to town. She's looking for her sister. Her evil exes are there. You can flirt with them or you can fight with them. It's like a weird turn-based RPG with all this colors and stuff happening. I really like the style of it. My previous problem that I had with it was I thought that the animation was a little sloppy looking.
That was my biggest issue with it for a while.
I think it's looking better here.
Yeah, it looks a lot better here.
Some of it is still a little chunky, or a little okay. Specifically, I shouldn't just keep saying the word chunky. Some of it looks like a little bit automated, where it's going from frame to frame without any smoothing or tweening, but it looks like it's getting better than it was the last time I saw it.
Well, before it was like borderline stop motion.
Right. Yeah.
But like not like an interesting stop motion.
Yeah.
Like it was just jarring.
Yeah, which is good. I'm glad that they've got it, because sometimes that style can work. It's just not the way that people move in the real world, so it can really take you out of it.
Or even like the way some of these games in general are.
Also, it appears that your grandma is going to be like the final boss. Like, they make a point of the trailer of being like the mom saying like, you've got to get this sorted out because my mom is coming for a visit. And then they show the grandma jump in and do this thing where she fucking kicks the chair on top of the table and then sits down on it like a crazy badass.
Yeah, she's asserting dominance like nobody else. She's got like a giant C on her fucking... I don't know if it's a necklace or just like a belt.
I don't know. I like the fact that it looks like there's a boss fight where she's just fighting, like she puts her fingers down. I'm assuming you're going to fight her hand as like a boss fight.
That's pretty fun.
Yeah. Anyway, it looks a lot better. I think it looks way better than it did before.
I think it looks a lot better. Yeah.
It's still a little bit rough, but it's coming out November 2nd, so they still have time to
now to me it's again the thing I mentioned last time. Now it's that indie rough instead of just like this is clearly like hasn't been finished,
like unpolished rough. Yeah. Like yeah. Also Game Pass. So boy, we're talking a lot about Game Pass. I wonder if there's going to be any implications about what's happening with Game Pass.
Who knows what it is.
Storyteller is getting some new update, like some new characters. This is the game where you make the little like kind of 3 to 6 panel stories. I think Amanda and I played all the way through this. The devil, there's like a dog now. There's like a Satan. There's some new scenarios.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, this is all going to be a free update. And then also at the end, they talk about this is happening in the end of July. This update is happening. And then they also at the end talk about how it's also coming to Netflix, which I assume is the Netflix mobile app.
Yeah.
Not like you're going to be able to play this game on Netflix or anything.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if they could do that into a console or not. Is the thing.
Maybe.
Because they still have the apps on there.
Possibly. So far, though, they've only ever used their gaming stuff for phone.
Yeah, as far as I know, yeah.
And then last but not least, we had a full game reveal, Michael. Big game reveal. Just to kind of get through all this, blah, 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 blah. Is Blade Runner 2033.
For them.
So between the original Blade Runner and Blade Runner 2049, they're having another game. It's very unclear from this trailer what kind of game it is, whether it's going to be like an adventure game or like a visual novel or whatnot.
Do we know if it has either of the two mains?
I do not believe so.
Okay, I was curious if that was. I wasn't sure if they're going to go like original character or like one of the other two.
No, they really they show this is very just like kind of stylish. Like it doesn't really show any specifics. So I don't know.
Okay, I just wasn't one because that's the thing about Blade Runner is that like people have such specific attachments to certain characters that like. If you're in that world, sometimes they're like, "Well, I want to see the guy or the character or whatever." And like, well, I like the idea of more like I wouldn't mind an original character in that universe.
You remember like the Westwood game? they remastered that thing,
did
man.
They really?
Yeah, they did.
That.
Yeah, this Blade Runner 2033 Labyrinth. So, I mean, I don't know that anybody even cares anymore when they hear stuff come out of my mouth, but like. I'm really Blade Runner'd out. Like, I thought the first one was fine, and then people obsessed over the first one in a way that wasn't interesting to me. And then 2049 came out. I didn't entirely care for it because I was like, these questions that you're asking, I've already answered them internally, and I don't need to wrestle with them. And everybody's like, isn't it brilliant? And I'm like, Also, just watching Ryan Gosling moon at the camera and be like, what am I? And I'm like, I don't care. So...
You're Ryan Gosling. Down.
It also didn't help that I went to go see that movie in the theater, and it was so fucking long that, like, and I think I was dating my ex at the time who literally fell asleep during it, and I was like, you lucky son of a bitch.
I wish I could fall asleep right now.
So, I don't know. We'll see. I mean, I have a hard time wondering if there's anything... If there are stories to tell. I kind of wish that we would tell some stories in the Blade Runner universe that weren't about, like... people hunting replicants, because that's kind of all that it's ever been.
Well, because that's the thing about the ending about I forget the actor's name, but I forget, somehow forgot the character's name off the top of my head. But the replicant at the end, where he starts explaining all the crazy, all the crazy shit he's seen. You're like, I want to see that crazy shit.
He's like, I've seen starships on fire, and I'm like, well, then why are we hanging out at the ramen market?
Yeah, I was like, I want to see that shit.
Yeah.
I want to see the cool shit that you just mentioned.
Yeah.
And they're like, but what if it's more about replicants? God, I don't care about that.
But do they have souls, Michael?
We're in the future. Like, I want to see the cooler shit.
But do they have souls, Michael? Come on.
Do they dream of electric sheep?
Do they dream of electric sheep? That's the only thing, is that Blade Runner is definitely better than the original story. So
it is, yes.
Anyway, that was everything from Annapurna. I don't know. There's some okay stuff in there. Like, I'm still Lorelei and the Laser Eyes looks all right. Like, I think that I'm interested in 2AT, even if I have weird feelings about it. Ghost Bike, I like the Nidhogg guys, so I'm interested to see what they do. The Bounty Star game looks cool. And then that we killing monsters, whatever it was called, the one
We Kill Monsters.
We Kill Monsters. I think that looks pretty cool. There's some interesting stuff in there, and I like the fact that we've got, Annapurna out there to fund funky, weird indie games by like husbands and wives.
Well, yeah, that's the thing that I like about Annapurna is they're one of the more interesting publishers because of that.
Yeah.
The issue I have is they're not very good at presenting those interesting ideas to the person.
I feel like they think that they need to have that their showcases need to be like 30 minutes long, and they're like, all right, We Kill Monsters guy, what do you got? He's like, I don't have anything. Like, well, what if we send a crew out to follow you around? What do? I go to the park, I play with my dog. I guess that'll have to do. All right, let's send somebody out there.
Like, we can make this work. We need it to be gloomy that day as well when we film this. It's like, okay, cool.
What about you guys? Got any footage for your new game? No. Are you married? Yeah. Okay. Talk about that for 10 minutes.
We're the artsy ones, so we can make it work.
Yeah.
It's like, God, dude, damn it.
Yep. But it's good to have indie developers out there, because who knows? By the end of this year, Microsoft may own every single video game company known to man and cause the destruction of mankind.
They'll make replicants.
So, last week, everybody might remember that the FTC put the court put a restraining order on Microsoft for the acquisition of Activision, which meant that Microsoft and the FTC had to go to court because it literally had an expiration date. I talked about this last week, where it's like, I've never seen an article where it's like, judge issues a restraining order and everybody cheers because they're just like, good, there's a date where this shit has to be done.
It's true, yeah. We've all been following this whole thing for quite a while now.
Oh, yeah, but I'm more like, I think the FTC and Microsoft were like, hey, it's going to go one way or it's going to go the other way.
Yeah.
We're at least going to know.
Well, people have just been super anxious about it.
Yeah.
To see, because we've talked about this multiple times, but the landscape of gaming will change from the yes or no.
Yes.
And I think that's fascinating. More for yes, to be honest. And that's especially after everything that's happened.
Yeah.
After everything that's happened, people aren't going to look at both companies the same for quite some time.
Okay, so sorry, I was checking because the judge is supposed to have some kind of it's very possible that by the time this podcast comes out, this shit's going to be ruled on.
I know they
right?
did the closing statements apparently today.
Okay,
or something like
so
that.
Probably tomorrow.
Somebody posted about it. I forgot who it was. I want to say it was Destin, something like that.
Probably not till tomorrow.
Yeah.
Jesus wept. There's a lot going on in here. Like
I've not heard that used that way before.
there's a lot. I'm trying to figure out the best way to talk about this because I didn't want to like.
It's a lot of where do we begin kind of thing.
Yeah, I didn't really want to like put it all out there. Let me see if I can. Okay,
We can
you know
start
what?
small, I guess.
Let's talk about a couple of different things. Okay, you know what? We're gonna have to end this segment halfway through because we've only got about 10 more minutes before we're gonna take a break. Or I'm at 10 more minutes, so we'll take a break. So we're gonna have to. This is gonna have to be 2 parts of this, but I think there's enough to talk about.
Way.
Let's start by asking this question because I saw a news report and I think it was had an interesting thing. After reading the testimony from the FTC and the FTC questioned Matt Booty and Phil Spencer and Bobby Kotick and a bunch of different things. The rep from FTC, they brought Albright. What was funny though, what was strange though, is that Jim Ryan was like a pre-prepared statement. Jim Ryan for PlayStation was like a prepared video or something.
Something like that, and it was a sealed one for the most part.
Yeah,
I guess there's some stuff here and there that came out of it, but still.
So let's ask this. I saw a news article that accused the FTC as basically acting specifically in the interests of Sony. That the things that their lines of questioning were not about consumer rights. They were about like making sure that Sony doesn't get steamrolled in this deal. Which
Don't you remember, Jeff? Corporations are people.
So this, and to me, this kind of is weird because it kind of lines up with. Do you remember when those senators put out that statement and it was all just like straight Sony talking points?
Yes.
It seems like I kind of think that that's not like an outlandish thing to say because we're gonna. Okay, you know what? We're just gonna skip all over the place. Okay, one of the things that I thought was the craziest thing I've ever seen in my entire life was I think it was Phil Spencer and I think there was one other person on the stand where the FTC was like, will you pledge to always have Call of Duty on PlayStation? And they were like, yes. And they're like, you will do this. Will you make a binding agreement under oath? And then it was like silence. It was like, what are you doing? Are you asking a company to make a binding agreement about the platform? The platform availability of a video game in an antitrust hearing? Like, that to me just seems wildly inappropriate.
Here's the thing about this, about the FTC's arguments against Xbox, is that it's obvious that they didn't know what they were talking about.
Yeah.
And so a lot of it comes down to them being like, well, the other guy said this.
Right.
Because they don't know what to say.
Yes.
Like, because if anybody who knows how to talk about gaming was on the stands for some of these things, there are things they could have grilled them about that legitimately would have been things that would have involved the consumer.
Yep.
But there's so many times where they'd be like, but what about the other guy?
Right.
It's like, what about the other corporation? It was all about
PlayStation and all about Call of Duty.
Yeah. And they would bring up Nintendo every now and then, like an idiot, because they had. The reason I say that is because I'm not saying Nintendo's bad. I'm saying it because their original arguments didn't involve Nintendo, but they kept fucking bringing them up.
Well, no, the thing is that apparently it kept being brought up for all 3 days because the FTC basically wanted to say, like, okay, when we talk about the video game market, we are talking about Microsoft and Sony and nobody else. And the thing is that that's very specific because, okay, PC gamers, I know, I hear you, but sit down. This doesn't involve you.
That was the thing. That's why it doesn't involve those guys.
Right.
PC is like because it was always going to be on PC either way.
Right.
That's not where the trust part comes in.
FTC wants to say that Nintendo doesn't count when you're talking about market position. So if you completely disregard Nintendo, then it's like, well, PlayStation is number 1 and Xbox is number 2. And if Xbox acquires Activision, then they could become number 1. And it's like, right. But you guys, the FTC keeps saying Nintendo doesn't matter to this market. Like they're like, oh, the only thing that matters are these high-end PS5, Xbox Series X.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, motherfucker. Like, Nintendo does matter. Like, they are not directly competing, but like, Nintendo has a huge ass market share. I don't know, Michael. A lot of it was just like, I'm not pro-corporate. I'm not fucking pro-business. But to me, these arguments seem to come down to, I don't want to have to deal with that. Like, Sony doesn't want to have to deal with the future where Microsoft owns Call of Duty, because, and that it's like, so we'll make up any argument that we can about why this shouldn't go through.
Well, that's what I mean with the fact that they don't know what they're talking about. And I don't mean Microsoft. Microsoft is very prepared because they're Microsoft.
Yeah.
They're $1 trillion company.
Yes.
And that's the thing, that's the reason that argument, that's the reason that I know they don't know what they're talking about, because if you actually know anything about games and you actually could make an argument against corporations, you could easily, the argument could have been not about, well, how does it affect Sony? It would be, how does it affect the idea that a $1 trillion company is spending $69 billion on another company, and all this other new stuff coming out about how they're like, by the way, we're $1 trillion company. Why don't we just throw our dick around, kind of thing? Because they can, and that's the argument that they should have focused on. Instead, all they focused on was Sony's talking points, thinking it was a smoking gun because they're like, they know what they're talking about, so we're going to use them in our arguments.
Right.
And Microsoft going is like, yeah, but we also know what we are talking about because we are also the other fucking side of the coin.
Yeah, in fact, let's get into one of these because we've got a couple of different sticking points. So we got about 5 minutes left. We can get into one of these. One of them was that I don't know if I have it specifically in a tab, but one of them was that in the first day, there was a memo that came out where they were like, Jim Ryan internally at Sony was like, we don't think that Microsoft is going to withhold Call of Duty from PlayStation.
Yeah, it was him in a conversation with some other exec about it, and they were like, because they were talking about the idea of it happening.
Yeah,
they're like, yeah, I don't give a fuck. We're like, and they were even talking about buying Bungie in the middle of it.
Right?
They're like, yeah, we have plans for something anyways. Like, we don't give a fuck about what's going on with this.
Yeah. So the idea that it's like they didn't even think it reminds me of like I don't know if we talked about it that much, because I just couldn't fucking believe it when it happened. That quote from, I think it was Jim Ryan, who said like, we don't care about the acquisition. We don't care about Call of Duty. We just want to block the acquisition.
It's that fucking Star Wars quote,
right?
Where it's just like, I don't care like if Call of Duty wins. I just fucking want you to lose.
Right. And it seems like a really weird thing. The other thing, okay, wait, hold on, because it's bouncing all over the place here. So you go back
that's
to
the hard thing about talking about it. We're going to be bouncing like crazy.
Yeah, is that if you go back to the Nintendo thing, the thing is that Microsoft, oh man, I don't know, say these words out loud, but like when you actually look at what the financials look like and you realize that like Microsoft has absolutely zero foothold in Japan and very minor foothold in all of the European market.
It's crazy.
Like Microsoft is number 3, like really number 3.
It's across the board.
Like they are not nipping at the heels.
They're not even number 1 in America where they live.
Right, exactly. They are way number 3. And the thing is that Microsoft is playing, I mean, like it becomes very clear when you look at this stuff that Microsoft is playing a long game, right? Like they have decided that they're not going to be able to play the game the way that it used to be played, which is you put out your proprietary console, then you have internal studios create games that are specific for that console, and then you sell them to the people and you gatekeep the game to your console. Microsoft has decided to do something different, and I don't like one of the things that I really don't like about this whole thing is that it feels like Sony, the FTC, the CMA, and a lot of other places are like, no, you can't do that. You have to play the game the way it's always been played, even though that advantages people like Nintendo and Sony in a lot of ways, who have a much more established track record of having internal studios with a lot of talent, right? Mm-hmm. So like, I don't know. I still can't get around the thing where it's just like, how dare you want to make even Call of Duty? I'm gonna make the case, even Call of Duty. How dare Call of Duty be a platform exclusive? How many fucking PlayStation people were just gleefully crowing with delight when it was announced that Spider-Man on the Avengers was going to be PlayStation exclusive? That's even a thing where you'd like removed content from a game,
thing, yeah.
Like gated content that was in the game to one specific platform. Like one, oh god, no, god, okay. I think we're just gonna have to cut this off early.
We're gonna have to.
We're gonna have to cut this off.
It's such an interesting thing to talk about, and since we're gonna be bouncing around a lot, that it's impossible to be like, and that's the end of that part of the discussion. Yeah, because it's not.
Yep. Okay. You know what? We're gonna take a break early, a few minutes early. We're gonna come back. I'm gonna get my head together. I don't know. We're gonna figure out how to talk about this. So yeah, stick around. We'll be right back. Hold on. All right, let's talk about some more specifics. Let's talk about some things that are specific, as opposed
to start small or go all into the big ones.
Okay. Let's we're gonna oh boy. Okay, let's start with Starfield. Because I think that this revelation about Starfield is a good talking point, right?
It's a big talking point.
So Phil Spencer, in part of his testimony, talked about how. And this is a good thing to consider when you're thinking about.
Also, the most shocking thing was seeing Phil Spencer in a suit.
Is that Sony had been paying Bethesda specifically to make the games that they were making PlayStation exclusives. This what happened with Deathloop. And what was the other one? It was Deathloop,
Ghostwire.
Ghostwire Tokyo, right? So Phil Spencer talked about basically how like Microsoft looked at this, and so Microsoft has talked about this before, but it's worth bringing back up that they kind of have this attitude that they've brought up a few times, where like they feel like they really fucked up by fucking up the last generation.
Yeah, Phil Spencer's gone on the record just being like, we failed at the worst possible time.
Right. And the reason for this is because the Xbox One PS4 generation was a generation where a lot of gamers started buying games digital only. And so basically having all of those games in your library meant that you were much more likely to keep the same platform moving forward, because the PS5 can play all your PS4 digital games and you spend a shitload of money on the PS4. You wouldn't want to move over to the Xbox, which then doesn't have your library.
What's the argument people make about phones? Like, I'm holding my phone up, is that like I that's the exact argument I make to people as to why I don't own anything Apple related.
Yes,
because I started on Google and I went all in on Google.
Yeah,
so a lot of my nonsense is attached to that, and then it's vice versa. I've talked to a lot of people about that. Like, how come you don't just switch to like, you know, a Google phone that like has more options to do things? It's like, I have so many fucking iTunes related things,
right,
that it would be like weird to switch over.
Yeah. So this seems to be the impetus for them buying Bethesda.
It was an interesting idea.
We just can't fucking like keep letting them eat our lunch. This also comes in, I think that this one of the interesting things that's tied to this is the idea. Boy, this is such a weird concept, but like, I think there is a little bit of chicken roosting happening here.
Oh, 1000%.
With the way that PlayStation has been treating exclusivity deals and like really sticking it to them, really sticking it to Stickwell over here, by Microsoft talked about how like if they put a game out, if an Xbox studio puts a game out and they put it on the PlayStation will keep like 30% of the profits from that game that gets sold on the PlayStation, and then they will use those profits in addition to their existing profits to then pay off studios to not put games on the Xbox. No. And so at Microsoft it's like, well, what the fuck, man? Like, we can't win in the like. So the thing is, this goes back to what we're talking about, the old rules, right? So the old rules being like, okay, you're going to put these games on every platform, and whoever has the best platform, like wherever it runs the best, right, people will gravitate towards that thing. But if you have one company, in this case Sony, that is literally paying developers to keep their games off of your platform, especially at a time, again, it's worth remembering that during the Xbox One generation, it took Xbox like 4 years to get back on track.
100%.
Like, it wasn't until Game Pass started really becoming a thing that
and people still made fun of him for a while.
Yeah,
they still do now. To be honest, we were just making fun of him a second ago.
That shit was terrible. Sony clowned them so hard.
It was really bad.
E3, like their corporate thing.
They filmed that fucking thing right then and there.
Oh, that game sharing thing.
So fucking funny.
Whoa.
This is how you. It was so fucked. But because the thing about them PlayStation getting these exclusivity deals. One is it's the old way of playing the game that Microsoft doesn't know how to do, and two, it's a super easy deal to make. Especially with the charts about Xbox being third place. You walk up to a guy and be like, hey, I am literally the best-selling console company, and I will give you extra money to just be like only on the best-selling fucking console.
Yeah.
And so you lose, like, the amount of money you would lose off of it is not that much compared to if they made an Xbox exclusive deal.
Yeah.
Because of that exact reason. Yeah. And the only reason that's like it's sort of shifted a little bit is that Microsoft remembered that they're a $1 trillion company.
So I want to be clear here. I don't think anybody in the comments has ever tried to argue with me about any of the specific points of this outside of like super long text blocks that I don't read because it just come to my email as a giant.
It's too long. Congratulations, or sorry for you. I'm not reading that.
Like Microsoft has spent money to make things Xbox exclusive. Specifically, I remember the Grand Theft Auto 4 DLCs were timed exclusives on the Xbox. They did Call of Duty deals during the 360 days. Fallout 3's DLCs were Xbox exclusive. But the thing is that I can't think of a time where that I know of. You may know this. You may be able to correct me. Where Microsoft literally engaged in that same thing where they paid for the main game to not be put on PlayStation.
The closest I can think of, and this was more because they were trying to get a push into the Japanese market. So again, this is a 360 thing. Because a lot of this stuff happened during the 360 era. The reason it didn't happen during the Xbox One era is because they didn't know what they were doing again. But the closest thing I can think of was Blue Dragon. Because Blue Dragon was a Square game that was made with the help of Akira Toriyama. It had a lot of stuff going for it.
Yeah.
And they specifically paid for it to only be an Xbox game. Yeah. Because they really, really wanted Japanese customers to buy an Xbox to play a JRPG.
Yep.
It did not work.
Didn't work. Also, what that Lost Odyssey.
Yeah, they also did that with Lost Odyssey. It was a lot of RPG-related things at the time, and the issue was that it didn't work out for them. Yeah. And it's one of the reasons I feel like they stopped doing that. And the closest other things to that is just their own studios, and that's a very easy thing to do.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's a very interesting thing about Starfield, and I do think that there's kind of a question that may come up about just like in fact, this is actually part of a later thing. I may not have these in the best order, but there was a there was some internal stuff that got leaked where Bethesda was like they came out when the acquisition was originally announced. Microsoft came out and said, "We have no plans to make Call of Duty a platform exclusive thing. Yeah, we want all of our gamers to be able to play these games no matter what platform they're on. We would never want to deprive gamers who we love and we want to suck their dicks and their hair is so shiny and they just smell so good.
Did you lose weight?
Yes, we never want to deprive them of the ability to shoot their friend in the face and call them a gay slur online." So we would never take Call of Duty off of PlayStation. And then there's this internal communication where like fucking like Pete Hines and people over at Bethesda were like, "Hey guys, you did that with Starfield? Like, do you not think that we should have a conversation about that? Because like Todd Howard's going to be at like GDC and that you said this, and I'm sure that some video game reporter is going to be like, so Microsoft has said that they don't want to take games away from gamers. Why is Starfield an Xbox exclusive?"
Yeah, like they're like, you said one thing and then told us to go fuck ourselves kind of thing. Like that makes us look weird. Yep. And it makes you look weird because now you don't have an explanation as to what's happening here. Yep. Because that was the thing when they bought Bethesda, that was the big question in the air was, what is everything they're going to make become exclusive all of a sudden? Especially things that were announced ahead of time from purchase, which is why the Indiana Jones thing came up during the FTC conversation, which is, to me, is fucking insane. Yep. Because that's not just a
and just for reference, that's the Indiana Indiana Jones game that Machine Games is working on.
Yeah, it was announced a year before the acquisition happened,
something like that, a year or two ago.
And it was the reason
it's going to be an Xbox exclusive.
Well, it is now. Yeah. But the reason it's a big deal is because that's a property that's owned But it's the same with Spider-Man. It's owned by another giant corporation,
right?
And they somehow convinced them to only let them make it now.
I think it's called money.
Yes, it's called money. But the thing is, I think it's a funny thing when you have to look at these companies' relationships with other companies.
Yeah,
because I feel the reason Microsoft has never been able to make the exclusivity deals work is that also the idea that they have been at this for a long time, and a lot of these companies trust PlayStation more in the conversation. Because I just remember the other thing that's the closest thing to exclusivity deals, and it's not an exclusivity thing, but it's the ability to get your trailers on your conferences first before others, because both of them do that. They'll walk up to somebody and be like, I'll give you $1 million to let us show that Call of Duty looks really cool on a PS5.
Yeah, in fact,
and because Xbox did that with a bunch of anime games out of nowhere.
Right.
They're like, hey, we know that Japan loves PlayStation and all, but it would be really cool if you let us show Dragon Ball FighterZ during E3 at Xbox first.
Well, they did it with Elden Ring, right?
They did, yeah.
Yeah.
Same with Kakarot, and same with a lot of different shit like that. Because it's weird when it happens. Capcom let them show off some stuff first there. That sort of it makes the conferences later on kind of weird when that happens.
Yeah.
And hell, it happened recently with the Prince of Persia thing. Like they showed off Prince of Persia,
right?
What was it? Was it at the PlayStation thing? I can't remember where it was at first.
No, Microsoft.
Was it? Was it Microsoft first?
PlayStation had their state of play
that's right.
2 weeks ago.
It was at Game Fest. They showed it at Game Fest first.
Yes,
and that's kind of that sort of idea.
Oh, right. Yeah. The summer. Yeah.
So it's about the relationships these people have with each other. And it's the closest thing to exclusivity deals that a lot of other people are doing outside of just console releases.
Sure.
And Microsoft is good at that part because that's easy to do with money, not so much with the relationship with companies.
The thing is that, like, I think there's some other stuff to talk about in here, but I think that if we boil this all down, and we've been talking about this for so long, right? But if we boil it all down, what it comes down to is, can Microsoft be trusted to hold, should any one company be trusted to hold this much of the video game industry in its hands, right?
That is the tricky part.
Like, does having all of these video game companies under the cloud of Microsoft, are they either like hoarding clout in order to basically like have the cachet to get users into their system? Or is this like a long-term thing? Because the thing is that you can make an argument, right, that what they're doing is they're trying to hoard as many things. And as soon as they reach a tipping point where they've got enough stuff to be the best, right, that suddenly we're going to raise all the prices. And what the fuck are you nerds going to do about it? Because it's not like you can go anywhere else. The thing is that I don't think that's really a very compelling argument, because one, it just assumes that this thing is going to happen in the future. Like, it could happen or it could not happen.
That's one of the problems with the acquisition to begin with, is we have no fucking idea.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is there's more evidence that it won't happen, because in reality, Xbox is Microsoft's just fucking hobby.
Yeah.
Like, at any moment, Microsoft can just be like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yep.
And just like fire all of Xbox.
Yeah.
And they would lose nothing.
They fired 10,000 people in January.
Exactly.
They fired 10,000, and I'm not saying they're going to dissolve the entire Xbox division.
I'm not saying they're going to, but I'm saying they could.
They could.
And it would not affect them nearly as much as you think it would.
Not as much as Sony, right?
If Sony was all of a sudden was like, no more PlayStation stuff, they would lose like half of their fucking market at the moment, because they're not failing, but they're doing all the other stuff that they used to be really good at.
Yeah.
All that stuff went down a long time ago.
Also,
Microsoft has not had that issue.
It's worth pointing out that, what was it, like day 3 of this FTC stuff? There's one part where they brought in this fucking economist guy, and it ended up turning into all this like whiteboard shenanigans of like doing things. And the thing is that this guy, like he, what was the outcome? It was like if Microsoft made Call of Duty platform exclusive, they'd gain like 8.9% market share.
It was something weird,
and it wasn't a lot.
It wasn't
right?
like massive.
Like the problem that you have to keep coming back to is the margins, right? Like we were talking about it in the first place, and I think it's really worth remembering is that like the FTC, the CMA, the EU, no. Sony wants to make this out like fucking like Sony and Microsoft are like fucking Ivan Drago and Rocky Balboa, and they're gonna get in the ring, and like, you gotta make sure that we protect American freedom from these filthy motherfuckers who are trying to take it away from us with all their advanced technology that they bought with all their dirty money and stuff. It's like Microsoft, if Microsoft gained another 8% market share, they still would be nowhere near. Like, I cannot emphasize enough, Microsoft has no market penetration in Japan or Europe.
They don't.
Like, or Europe.
They would only gain the market share of America.
Right.
If they didn't release Call of Duty on anything else, they would lose so much money.
Yes.
Than they would ever gaining. It would be such a loss.
Yes.
And my favorite part, this was something that happened, I want to say in day 3 or something, is that one of the judges the judge that they're talking to brought it up. They're like, how much of this data, because it was some sort of 20% number that they were talking about.
Yeah.
They kept talking to the FTC. I'm like, how much of this data is about people who just bought Call of Duty and played it once?
Right.
Because they're not getting any money out of those guys. Like, they got like $70 out of them, and they got nothing else after that. That part of the market, in that 8% their gain, wouldn't even make them that much more money, because those people exist.
Yeah, it's just
those people like are kind of like are could also be like streamers like you are, where you buy it, you do 2 episodes of something, and then you never touch it again.
Yep.
Like,
I mean,
they gain nothing out of that.
It's just there's so many weird arguments also that are happening here that I don't like. That's the thing, is that like I'm not fucking pro Microsoft. Like, I'm not, like, I don't.
We're not pro Microsoft. We're pro good arguments.
Right. Like, there was a oh god, what, oh fuck, I'm losing it. There was an argument. Shit. Oh god damn it! There's too much information flowing through my brain.
There's so much information going on.
What was I talking about before? I was on that 8% market share and all this other stuff.
What's the Bobby Kotick thing?
It was talking about. Well, no, I mean, like, part of it was like, okay, one of the arguments. This is the one that I was thinking of, and it might come back to me. The FTC was talking about how, like, they consider the cloud gaming thing to be a separate market from video, from the direct like console to console thing. They're like, this is a separate market, and right now Microsoft, and they did point out that Microsoft did, when they acquired Bethesda, pull all the Bethesda games off of GeForce Now, back when GeForce Now was really struggling because publishers kept yanking stuff off of their market because they didn't want people playing it there. However, it was like on the third day when they had the Google Stadia person come in, and they were just like, well, who were you competing with? And they were like, well, Microsoft and Nintendo and Sony. They're like, okay, so you were competing against the console market with your streaming technology. It's like, yes, okay, well, then you cannot make the argument that xCloud is a separate thing from the entire market as a whole. So,
to them, for some reason, they thought the idea that market share was all computer related.
Yes.
But that's not really how that works, even with that, because of the way PlayStation Now was a thing.
Yes. Sony had a streaming platform way before Microsoft did.
100%.
And in fact, they just bought that shit. They just bought another company and then cannibalized them directly into their streaming.
On Live too, or something like that.
No, it wasn't on Live. It was the other one. There was like a Japanese one, I believe, that was.
I know. I forgot the name of it, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. In any case, like, I don't know. There's just so much.
There's so much in these arguments, but my favorite argument, I'm going to bring up Bobby Kotick.
Yeah.
My favorite thing that happened that shows how much Microsoft was being bullied by everybody else. And also, it's another thing about the Bethesda thing, the way they decided to buy Bethesda. Yeah. It makes me feel like this is the reason they bought Activision, is that Bobby Kotick fucking blackmailed Xbox. Like, straight up.
Yes.
Like, and that's not even hyperbole. They straight up were like, hey, it would be a real shame if you didn't give us more money. That would cause us not to give you Call of Duty.
Right.
Like, that was extortion, guys. Like, straight up. Like, it was the kind of thing that even if I was Phil Spencer, I'd be like, I'm gonna show you how big my dick is. Like, I'm gonna fucking LBJ this shit and like throw down $69 billion and be like, you get that shit out of my face. Like, you want money? I'm gonna give you fucking money.
Yeah. It's like, okay, maybe this is the way that I can maybe I can change the position. I'm still trying to remember that thing. It's fucking up my brain. Maybe this is a good way that I could change the way to look at it. It seems like Sony is arguing for the continuation of the way that things always have been.
Yeah.
And that Microsoft has decided to take a new thing, right? Up until fucking Microsoft started doing this, you would get the occasional, Sony acquired a studio type of thing. Yeah. But then Microsoft comes in with their dick and they're just like, I'm buying Obsidian. And they're just like, whoa, fuck, okay. No, I'm buying Double Fine. It's like, oh, the wacky Tim Schafer? Okay. And it's like, okay, we're buying Bethesda. Like Bethesda Softworks? No, the entire fucking company in software. Fucking,
ZeniMax, who own all of those motherfuckers.
The whole thing. And I think that what's happening here is that it just seems to me like Sony keeps trying desperate move after desperate move to be like, hey, you can't do that. You can't do that.
Yeah.
I can't afford to keep up with you if you do that. You can't buy Elder Scrolls and then make it an Xbox exclusive. I can't afford to buy Elder Scrolls. So that should be illegal. And I'm like
wait, that's illegal. The main issue, because that's the only argument against it that I could make.
Right.
Like off the top of my head, at least. I'm sure if I was a lawyer and I digged real deep, I could find an actual other argument.
Sure.
That's the argument that the FTC is not making. The FTC is not making hey, you're outspending the competition. They're making the argument of Sony being like, oh, woe is us. If Call of Duty isn't here anymore, we will start losing lots and lots of money. And it's like, that's not the argument you should be making here.
and the thing is that I think that, God damn it, I don't want to say, I don't really want to say
it. I sound like we're repeating ourselves here and there, but that's the arguments that are happening.
I don't want to say it out loud, but the thing is that Microsoft also is like, we will sign you a 10-year exclusivity contract.
Yeah.
And if you really care about Call of Duty, you can spend those 10 years making your own Call of Duty. You bought Bungie, for fuck's sake.
Yeah.
So I think that if this deal is disallowed, to me, at least, it opens the door to be like, well, if Microsoft can't buy Activision, then why can Sony buy Bungie or Insomniac or Sony wanted to buy From Software, right? Why can Nintendo acquire why can a parent company keep acquiring studios? Oh, I remember what I was going to say before. Why can a parent company keep acquiring studios? Why is the magnitude of this one make it different than the rest? Because you're still just using money to acquire market share. It's just that Microsoft has more money, but they also have the lowest market share. So it's like, if you really wanted competition, in my opinion, it's like, force Sony. I think it was in the Sharpie document where they saw that they were making $1.8 million off of every year off of Call of Duty microtransactions over at Sony or something like that. Where it's like, I get why Sony doesn't want Call of Duty to go multi-platform, but the part of me that's just like, the argument can't just be, well, it isn't fair because I can't play Bloodborne on the PC, okay? I can't play Spider-Man on my Xbox Series X. Console exclusivity has always been a thing. And so the idea that it's illegal because I don't want it to happen because it'll be hard. It'll make things too hard for me. Well, and it's I don't care about that argument.
The thing that I brought up is, or I remember I brought this off mic, is the reason why it's such a big deal this time around is the amount of money being spent at once.
Sure.
Because prior to this, gaming, the amount of money that was being spent by gaming was still in the billions, but a lot of it wasn't in the double digits. Some of it was. I'm not going to pretend that wasn't, because I know one of them was in the 20 billions, if I remember correctly. But this is such a large amount of money. It's like past the GDP of some countries,
sure,
kind of thing.
Oh yeah,
amounts of money. So it gets people turning to look at it.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of eyes on it. And I know I've brought this up before, because I know everybody's talked about this before, is the FTC needed a target to make themselves look big against, and I'm using quotey fingers, big tech. Microsoft is technically big tech, but the Xbox side of it is not what I would consider the big tech part of it.
Oh, no.
And so they thought this was going to be something where they could stomp it and be like, look how cool we are. and I don't think they thought this through.
Dude, are you kidding me? Like I'm 45 years old. That means I was a teenager in the 90s. I am all for being like Microsoft. The biggest threat from Microsoft is their goddamn operating system,
100%.
not Xbox. Like, I think that the Office division should have been split off of Microsoft in fucking 1998 and made to operate as their own business that was not attached to the same company that was selling. Are you telling me that the company that sells me the operating system also makes a word processor that every single person in the world uses with a closed format that up until about 5 years ago you had to have Microsoft Word in order to write college documents to turn them in? Anyway,
there's a lot of that. Microsoft Word was king.
Bad argument. The bad argument that I thought up or that I came up with was, I don't know if you saw where they were talking about how there was some complaint that was like, there's not even a PlayStation 5 version of Minecraft.
Oh, that one, yeah.
And then Xbox was like, you never sent us PS5 dev kits. They're like, we can't send PlayStation 5 dev kits to our direct competitor. And they're like, well, then there isn't a PS5 version of Minecraft. Also, there isn't an Xbox Series X version of Minecraft. It's the same old version, just running on the new console hardware.
They did neither of those things. Like, that was the only other argument that was made that I was like, okay, that's a fair argument. Not the PlayStation 5 part, but the idea that, like, hey, if we make a new console, we can't send you all of the specs for that console ahead of time,
right?
Because then you could use that to be like, hey, they're going to do this, so maybe we could do this part.
Make it 5% faster.
Yeah,
make it 5%.
Like, that's the only argument that I'm like, okay, that's a fair argument to be upset about.
But then you can't bring up the fact
it slows them down. It slows down the idea of making a Call of Duty for both of them at the same time.
Yep.
But that's the only argument I'm willing to listen to on that part of it.
Yep.
But the problem is it's such a small part of it that it doesn't really matter.
Also, speaking of making stuff at the same time, one of the other things that I think that they said was that Starfield would have taken longer to produce if they had to make a PS5 version, because
100%.
it would have had a whole separate branch that was for that hardware that would have had to go through like cert and everything. Anyway,
there's so much, but I don't think we should.
That's a half hour. Let's hit couple of high points.
You could make a whole fucking podcast on just this one thing.
Yeah, I'd have to make some notes though next time to quit meandering.
I would have to have notes.
We talked about how it turns out that Sony doesn't really care that the
heads of Sony
they don't believe that Microsoft would make Call of Duty exclusive. I really don't think that Microsoft wants to make Call of Duty a platform exclusive because it's such a big franchise that they would just lose a shitload of money.
I believe Phil Spencer when he says, I bought Activision not for a Call of Duty, but for their experience at mobile shit.
Yes.
Because he wants a lot of cloud stuff to work.
That one was kind of meh. We did find out that Microsoft considered buying, this is like an interesting thing, they considered buying Sega, Bungie, IO, and like there's a whole list of companies that they had.
So my favorite thing about this list is it turns out this was supposed to be what was under the Sharpie.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, because I found this out recently, was that these were originally under the Sharpie because they weren't supposed to know what they were buying.
We've mentioned that a couple of times. Sony redacted a bunch of documents with a Sharpie, and then when they scanned them in, it's a Sharpie, not like a you want the big fat black marker, not a fucking Sharpie.
Or like a whiteout or something.
Yeah, because it just like when they scan these documents in, the scanner light just went right through the Sharpie and you could totally see a bunch of shit that was written underneath Sharpie.
But it turns out the same things happen to Microsoft documents.
Yeah.
So a lot of this stuff isn't even online anymore.
Yeah. Also, let's see. They also talked about Supergiant Games, Niantic, Zynga. Also, the Hollow Knight devs were in there. A bunch of studios that were kind of
they were very serious about trying to outspend their way through it.
Yep.
And they easily could have. And the fact that they didn't is kind of a miracle.
Jim Ryan assures us that many publishers think that Xbox Game Pass is a bad thing to their business because they don't sell as many things because it's on Game Pass. I don't believe you.
I actually half believe him.
Yeah.
The reason I half believe him is because it's a long run thing.
Yeah.
I think the idea that publishers probably hate the long run part of it, because in the short term you make a lot of money because Game Pass gives you a lot of money up front.
Yes.
When it happens. But it's the same issue I have with streaming services.
Yeah.
Is that when everybody is special on a streaming service, then nothing is special.
Right.
And it causes the long run to get hit immensely.
Yep.
But again, that's the only half of it. I believe I believe companies like the short term more nowadays, though. So that's the reason I think it still has some bullshit attached to it.
I'm with you where I'll say half, but I think I've also seen enough stories about like
it's all the lower tier studios that love it, though.
I'm not sure that Remedy would have been able to operate independently if they hadn't gotten the deal for fucking Control for the Epic Game Store.
Hell no.
I think that the Carrion devs might have put out their game and it might have flopped without the some of those. Or there's a lot of indie devs, like smaller devs that get their shit on Game Pass. All that Annapurna stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like the problem with going completely independent, right, is that yes, you might have more stability in the long term. But if you come out of the gate and you don't make enough money to keep your operating costs together, you might be out of business in 6 months.
And there are a lot of games that were made. What was the name of the one that I'm thinking of with the old timey?
You have to be more specific.
No, I was about to, and then you stopped me. The old timey book thing, the not RPG, but like it was where we walked around. It becomes like a murder mystery. Where it's like it looks like a medieval book.
Oh, Pentiment. Yes.
The guy one of the developers of Pentiment outright said this game literally would not exist without Game Pass.
Right.
Like literally.
Okay. So we're still moving. We're still a little bit in that. I mentioned this earlier, or I don't know. I think I mentioned it off mic, but one of the other things that we found out this week, I don't think this actually happened specifically at this, but Starfield announced that they have signed an exclusivity deal with AMD so that the PC version of Starfield will only support FSR2 and will not be supporting DLSS or XeSS. For anybody who doesn't know, DLSS and XeSS are the NVIDIA and Intel specific AI upres software.
Yeah, it's super popular right now.
Yes. The problem is that DLSS is very good. DLSS works very, very well.
I remember we were playing a game and you're like, it doesn't have this, and you were so fucking pissed.
Jedi Survivor.
Was that what it was?
Well, I don't. It may not. No, I played that with Jason, but like
I know we did one where you were like surprised that wasn't
very upset because that game would probably run very well on my fucking GeForce 3060 if the DLSS that NVIDIA has in there could literally like work on it. FSR2, I believe, is a software only solution, so you can actually enable FSR, I believe, without an AMD card.
I think so.
But it doesn't work as well. Like it makes things look worse. Whereas like the DLSS 3, DLSS 4 tensor cores on the 30 and 40 series NVIDIA cards really do a good job. Like I've really been impressed at how well they work for this stuff.
Oh, okay.
So the idea already that we have like, okay, so the Xbox version of Starfield is going to be capped at 30 frames per second. But don't worry, there's a PC version. And if you have an AMD card, it'll probably run great. And if you don't, well, you probably have to wait for modders to mod DLSS into it.
I saw on Twitter that the group of modders are like, we'll get it done in a week.
Yep.
That's straight up. Like they're promising they'll get it done in a week. Once it's out.
It's really irritating. And the thing is that like...
But not everyone can mod games. That's the issue.
That this new technology has created a PC version of the console wars. They signed an exclusivity deal with AMD over NVIDIA.
That's the thing that I'm fascinated by these news stories is because I didn't realize that this was a thing for a long. Because you don't think about it when you're not a PC gamer.
Yep.
Because you don't understand. Especially because I'm admitting this outright is I don't understand all of the specific hardwares that are used for gaming on a PC. Yeah. And it's because of my understanding of it is so fucking outdated that like I'm thinking fucking like the 98 99 almost era in my brain. I don't understand.
You're running Windows Vista over there?
I got like a hamster and a wheel playing Duke Nukem, and I don't mean 3D. I mean like part 1 where everything's pink as shit.
Yeah, so this is a big deal, and people are not happy about it.
No, they're not. I've been seeing a lot of comments, people super pissed off about it.
Yep, which is a real shame. It's possible. See, the problem is that I'm not clear whether these sorts of deals are timed.
I've seen them happen before, but usually they're like graphic card related.
Like, do you get DLSS 3 after a year. Like,
I don't know how it works.
What in the fuck is this world?
Like Nvidia does a lot of these, but usually people are fine with those.
Yeah,
but usually it's just like, but also they don't usually affect gameplay stuff. It's usually just like, hey, our graphics cards are really cool.
Right.
If you buy our, you get a free copy of whatever this game thing we made our exclusivity deal with.
I still haven't played Jedi Survivor because I couldn't get it to run well enough yet. And one of the reasons that I have the EA subscription pass that has it on it, but it only has XeSS and it still kind of runs like garbage on the PC. And I'm like, hey, you know what would make this work wonders? DLSS 3, bitch. Like, so yeah, this actually bums me out too, because I was hoping to play it on my PC with the stuff jacked up. But the thing is that I don't want to.
You'll have to wait like a week or something.
Can I buy 2 different video cards? Can I do the equivalent of buying an Xbox and a PlayStation?
You could.
And just swap video cards depending on what the game supports?
God, that sounds frustrating.
I want to throw up from that sentence.
That sounds awful. Holy shit. I'm gonna have to keep unscrewing your fucking
gross
PC case.
I guess I could get, if I could find a USB-C. USB 3 is fast enough that if you have a USB-C 3 port, you could technically buy an enclosure that you could put a video card in that's fast enough to render.
That's disgusting.
I could get an enclosure with one of the new AMD cards and then like plug that in just to do capture for Starfield. I don't even know. I'd have to unplug my monitor. What am I, caveman? With my hands like a baby toy? Boo. We got an answer to the question of, is Starfield going to be on a disc?
Oh, yeah, I heard about this one. Because this is what happened with Redfield at one point. It's the same misunderstanding, really.
Yep. So originally there was a tweet that Bethesda put out saying that there wouldn't be any retail discs in the physical versions. This meant the Steelbook version, not all versions. But
I think it was also like them thinking the PC version, too.
Yeah, but it was worded poorly where people were like, so I'm going to go to Best Buy, I'm going to buy a plastic case that just has a code inside of it.
It's not the first time that's happened either.
I mean,
it happened with Player Unknown, whatever the fuck.
Oh, Battlegrounds?
Yeah, Battlegrounds.
Yeah.
That was the last time I heard of that happening immensely.
Yes. But no, it has now been confirmed that the standard edition of Starfield for the Series X will also have physical disc. So
yeah, the funniest thing is that the confirmation was from like a foreign, I want to say Amazon or something.
It was like the Spanish Steelbook, the Spanish language account.
It was a Spanish language account of Bethesda, I think is what it was.
Okay.
And so they're the ones that are like, oh, by the way, it does have a disc. And they like, so the English one didn't even tell people.
Let's see. How many more of these do I have? Okay, yeah, we can plow. We're going to plow. We're getting ready to put down the plow.
Mr. Plow.
One of the other things that was announced at the thing, sorry, I try to put these, the difference between like, can I put them in logical order? Do I put them in the chronological order? Or do I put
fine.
Like segue order?
Everything's fucked thanks to the FCC.
Elder Scrolls 6 is probably at least 5 years away, according to testimony at the FTC hearing. So
yeah, that was the one that you're talking about, the Under Oath thing.
Yes.
Where they're like, hey, is this going to be an exclusive? And they're just like, dude, I honestly don't know.
Yeah.
That's future Phil Spencer's issue. That's so long from now. I might not even be working here anymore, kind of thing.
I want them to bring Don Matrick back as general counsel for Xbox.
That would be so funny. Be so fucking funny.
This whole podcast should be dedicated. I mean, it is in some ways, but like we were talking about all of the problems of Microsoft and like when how like Sony and Nintendo flopped between the PS3 and the Wii U. They kind of fucked up their entries into that console generation. Let the 360 like get a head start, and the 360 was all out in front. We were getting ready to go. We're going to the next console generation, and they just fucking like stepped on the rake that was that goddamn Xbox One E3 press conference. Fucking slapped them in the face, and they have not been able to catch up since.
No, it should be that meme where it's like the domino guy.
Yeah.
Where it's like if Don Matrick says there is a console for that, it's the Xbox 360,
yep.
and then the ending part is the FTC fucking thing.
Right, yeah. Is it you had to spend trillions to get you back into the video game industry.
You guys fucked up real bad
because of Don Matrick's big fucking mouth.
I love it.
Anyway, yeah, Elder Scrolls 5 years away. Hey everybody, here's a pro tip from somebody who's been waiting for video games for a long time. Elder Scrolls 6 has been canceled. It's never coming out. Okay? Put that in your mind.
Don't think about it.
Yep. Just never coming out. Don't even worry about it. Some point there's going to be a weird trailer that says Elder Scrolls 6 is online or is going to come out. You can be like, oh shit, I thought that game got canceled, and then there you go.
For all we know, 5 years from now, they're not even going to make it.
In 5 years, will we even have video games?
Yeah. Will we even need video games?
Will we just be floating brains in a jar connected to streaming services?
We will have evolved past our physical forms.
Let's see. We also from that found out, this has come from the documents submitted, that this was something that had been rumored previously, that IO Interactive's new fantasy game that's called Project Dragon is probably going to be an Xbox exclusive.
That's interesting.
I get the impression that when I read between the lines and knowing what I know about IO Interactive, I get the impression that Microsoft, because IO Interactive was on the list of companies to be bought, it would not. And if I'm not mistaken, Hitman came to Game Pass a little while back.
It did, yeah.
That Microsoft went to IO Interactive and they were like, we want to buy you. And they were like,
We've gone through that so much.
We just got out from underneath Square Enix's horrible fucking belted boot. Okay, like no. But they're like, well, okay, will you make something special for us? They're like, yes, we will do that. We will do that.
Yeah, it's like we got another idea instead.
We con these guys into letting us make a James Bond game. Please, just let us cook.
Let us just fucking not deal with this shit right now.
So, but yes, almost certainly that is going to be an Xbox exclusive. The strangest thing to me, though, Michael, is nowadays when I say Xbox exclusive, that always means Xbox and PC.
Yeah, there's not an actual exclusive for that sort of thing.
It just means not on the Switch or the PS5.
Yeah, because that's the funny thing about the generation right now is that people are always just like, there's no such thing as an Xbox exclusive. They're just not.
Yep. Let's see. Diablo got DDoS. I don't care. Multiverses is offline.
Yes.
In case you stupid idiots bought Multiverses and thought I purchased a video game, that shit was in early access and has been taken offline.
Yep.
So, yeah.
You can still do all the offline fighting stuff though. That was the thing that they were cool with.
Yeah.
And if you downloaded it before, you can still download it now. But if you didn't, they're just shit I like.
Yep. And I mean, they're going to keep all of the unlocks and all of the credits that are left over and stuff. And it should be coming back at some point. But
it comes out again next year, apparently. But I'm curious as to what will happen though after that, because Kevin Conroy's gone, and he was the Batman in it, and so you can't record new interactions with people because of it.
AI voice generation.
I don't know if he signed something like that. That's the thing.
Yeah. So yeah, Multiverses is no longer there. Let's see. In other interesting game news, Remedy came out and talked a little bit about Alan Wake 2 and why Alan Wake 2 isn't going to have a physical release. God damn, I should put these things closer together, but I could. Anyway,
it's too late. Who cares?
Physical release. So. This is actually a really interesting story. I'd be interested to hear any takes you might have on this. I don't know if you read this, but
I knew about it. I read like some stuff about it in the past.
So they talked about how Alan Wake 2 isn't going to have a physical release, and part of when they originally talked about it was so they could the price is going to be reduced, right? It's not going to be full price. It's going to be like $5 less or $10 less.
Yeah, because when the first Alan Wake came out, it didn't do gangbusters then either. Sure. So they're like, fool me once, shame on you,
right?
Kind of thing.
But the other reason they talked about was that they can keep working on the game right up to the release date, doing polish and bug fixes, because if it's digital only, it means they don't have to submit a gold master to be printed onto discs. They can basically continue doing updates right up until the point when the game comes out and then have the most up-to-date version online. It's an interesting thing to think about. I don't think I want the company to be working on the game all the way up until the very day that it comes out. Like, I think that the games should be in an acceptable state. Like, everybody talks about physical media, and it's like, well, yeah, but what good is physical media if you get a game that requires a day one 7 gigabyte patch? That's not going to do anything once they shut the servers down. You're going to have a shit version of the game. Congratulations.
We'll still have the game, though, but that's the issue. That's the main issue with gaming nowadays.
Yeah.
Is specifically what you said, which is that if you have a version of a game And he'd be like, yeah, that game, it's a really fantastic game. By the way, before it was ever patched, there was a bug in it that made your Xbox explode.
Right.
And and the only way you can get it is if you got that patch. But all those servers one day are just going to be gone. And in the post-apocalypse, you're going to find that game. You're like, I loved playing this game. And then the only Xbox you can find in the entire world is going to explode, and you're going to go full Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
Where you're like, there was time now, but there's not now because that fucking thing exploded.
Let me see if I can put this into. I just thought of this. I'll be bringing this up forever. What good, Michael, is it to have a physical copy of No Man's Sky?
Yes. There's no good that can come from having a physical copy of No Man's Sky.
I mean, congratulations. You can play the 1.0 version of No Man's Sky forever, but it's got to have the updates anyway. It's kind of why I've stopped caring about physical media, because it's just like
I like having it on my shelf.
Yep.
But the thing about this one that kind of only slightly bums me out is what you said, which is that they're going to consistently work on it until it comes out, because that unfortunately gives them they might accidentally run into the Duke Nukem Forever issue, where they're like, it's not complete yet, and then they find themselves being like pushing it back, because Star Citizen has run into this issue.
Sure.
Where these guys are consistently making this game. They're like, we're constantly updating it, and they keep looking at it and going, it's not perfect yet, and then so it never actually comes out.
Yeah.
And I trust Remedy to not do it, but I'm worried that other companies who think this is a good idea will find themselves just not releasing games because they're perfectionists.
Makes sense.
But also, I get it 100%. And for all we know, Limited Run might make a copy of this thing. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if they they would make a conversation with somebody about that.
Yeah, very possibly. Let's see. E3 2024 has been canceled. Wait, no, it hasn't. Question mark?
I heard about this, actually.
So this is so strange. There was a meeting packet that was sent out to like the LA City Tourism Board of Commissioners, and there was a footnote. I had a hard time finding this. If you look, it had a bunch of like, just this bullshit. Here's our projection. Here's the booked nights, blah, 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 blah. And one of these figures had like a star by it, and the star had a footnote that said, includes E3 cancellations for 2024 and 2025. And somebody was like, oh, I guess E3 is canceled in 2024 and 2025. But then they emailed, who are these assholes? ReadPop?
Yeah, they're the ones who were in charge of it, that were supposed to be in charge of it this year.
Right. And they came back with the response. ESA is currently in conversation with ESA members and other stakeholders about E3 2024 and beyond, and no final decisions about the events have been made at this time. So
this makes perfect sense, though.
Yeah.
Because all it is that the government itself is going, what do we need to put money into the idea of promoting?
Yep.
And E3 has been so volatile in the fact that there's no concrete idea that it will even happen anymore, that they have to factor in the idea of if these two things are canceled.
Sure.
The problem is they don't put the words if. They put the words it is already canceled.
Right.
So, yeah, that's what's happened here.
Yep. Let's see. We also got the news that actually by the time this podcast comes out, it will already be a thing. But Bandai Namco has a summer showcase that's happening. Well, will have already happened by the time this comes out. Happens tomorrow from our perspective. But
happens July 1st.
Yep. It's supposed to be talking about Naruto, Sandland, Sword Art Online, and Baten Kaitos. This is coming at the Anime Expo 2023, so it makes sense that they'd be talking about
I'm wringing my hands, by the way, guys.
Yes.
The reason for that is because we've been waiting for fucking news on the Dragon Ball Z Kakarot DLC for fucking ever. And we are all hoping to God that we will finally get a release date for that goddamn DLC. And there's apparently there's a leak as to what the final DLC is going to be. It's just going to be the end of Dragon Ball Z, because that's not part of Kakarot. It doesn't have the final. It doesn't basically have the final episodes in it. Okay. So that's like, it's weird that they're doing that, but I understand why they're doing it.
Michael, aren't you tired of Dragon Ball by now?
Never.
You've had so much Dragon Balls.
I'll never be tired of Dragon Ball.
Okay.
Ever. Okay. I will die I'll die and then be resurrected by them before I'll get tired of them.
Oh God, this takes
You
so
did not
long.
have a transition now.
This takes so long. I was gonna say, speaking of being crazily obsessed with some weird anime whack shit.
Oh, this thing. I know exactly what you're talking about. I know exactly what this news story
We're
is.
gonna do this one really quick. So
the funniest thing is this is the second time this has happened,
Yep.
but not about the same game.
some guy bought a bunch of shares of Nintendo stock in order to attend their shareholder meeting to ask emphatically. It apparently went on for a long time, even though the fucking CEO of Nintendo was like, "This is going on for too long." Why there aren't more boy hairstyles for the Inklings in Splatoon 3? How he's really disappointed that Nintendo doesn't have more interesting boy Inkling hairstyles in Splatoon 3. The weirdest part about this story was apparently he made the money to buy the Nintendo stock by reselling OLED Switches, like being a filthy fucking flipper on eBay.
Well, the way he did it is really fucking crazy, because not only did he do that, he did it at a loss. Because the way he did it is he bought Switches with a credit card, and then sold them for cheaper than what they were to make $3,500, or because I think that's how much he spent on stocks.
Oh, so he used the credit card to buy them, and then he sold them at a loss just to convert that into cash?
Yeah, because you can't buy stocks with credit.
Oh, God.
Which is batshit fucking insane.
All to ask about this? Oh, my God.
He technically spent more than $3,500. Because he now has all of that credit card debt.
He's what this one quote from him where he says, "I've sent letters to Nintendo many times, but they didn't seem to like improve the quality." And I'm just like, my guy, I don't know how somebody cares about Splatoon this much.
Actually, how much money was it that he bought in stock again?
I don't know.
Was
if
it 35 or 35,000? It was something like, it involved 3 and 5 in it. I just don't remember how much it was.
I don't think it says in the article that I got for it. In any case, no, it says roughly $3,500.
Okay, so it was 3,500. Okay, cool. But imagine spending that much credit on anything.
Well, no, but the other thing is that, like, then he went on and on. He fucking Patton Oswalded from thing where Shuntaro Furukawa, the president of Nintendo, like at one point tried to cut him off to say this is going on for too long. He just talked over him. He
just kept going.
So the previous one was about F-Zero.
Yes.
And there was a response to that. But in this one, when he finished his question, the Nintendo president was just like, "Thank you very much for your question. Next, please." And like just didn't respond at all to it. So after all of that, this guy shot his shot and fucked it all up.
Yes, he fucked it up, but he got it out there. He got the weird fucking question out there, but now people's questions are, why aren't there more hairstyles for Squid Boys?
Nobody cares.
And why did he spend that much money for that question?
Nobody cares. This is a stupid question, but it's a stupid thing that happened.
I wish somebody would have done what Andrew Wilson did at that old spill, which is, why aren't there more ninja games? That's a reference that only some of you may get. Super deep cut for us.
Triss and Yennefer and Ciri are in Fortnite.
Yes.
Geralt is already in there. I unlocked Geralt and all of his shit. I was so happy about that. I was like,
he was a season pass thing, right?
Yeah.
So he's no longer there.
Limited. Well, until he comes back up on the store and then
anybody on the season pass doesn't come back up on the store.
Oh,
that's why you can't buy Superman or Spider-Man.
Oh,
and that's why I don't have either of them.
Optimus Prime is on there right now, I believe.
He is.
Ooh.
So you have to do it to get Optimus Prime.
Might be spending some dollars. Patreon.com/RageSelect. I don't want to have to flip OLED switches to pay for my crippling Fortnite addiction.
Nintendo, give me free stuff.
Anyway, they put Yennefer and Ciri in here. Ciri's got her sword. Yennefer's got little spell books and stuff like that.
Also like a dragon thing or something as their like glider thingy.
Yep. It's pretty cool. Now get Triss. Put Triss in there. It's weird that they didn't put Triss in Yennefer.
Yeah.
They put Ciri in Yennefer.
Very strange. I assume. I don't know. I didn't play The Witcher.
Did you see? I had this in a previous. God, we're going over. I had this in a previous podcast, but I didn't. I cut it. you see that one of the things in the season pass is an emote that is the "This is fine" dog? It's basically like your character sits on a chair and all this fire comes up around them and they hold the cup. Like, it doesn't say "This is fine," but it's that.
It's just that,
like,
yeah.
You know, I really have to hand it to Epic of just like, I looked at that new pass and I could buy it with V-Bucks or that I earned from the previous battle pass, and I was like, "Ooh, you insidious sons of bitches!"
That's how they do it. That's the reason. That's the reason their battle pass is so like celebrated.
You're the only ones to do it. Among Us
do it well, at least.
Is getting a TV show, an animated TV show.
This caught me off guard.
Yep.
When I found this out.
That's kind of all we know at the moment.
Well, it's being made by the guys who made. Shit, I forgot, because that was part of the announcement on CBS.
CBS Animation Productions?
Yeah, because they're getting like somebody who made something specific to make it. And life of me, I can't remember who it was. Oh, they made Infinity Train. That's what it was.
Oh, okay.
They were the guys who made Infinity Train. They got them to. They're getting them to make the show.
Excellent.
So,
between that and the Dead Cells show, we'll have some actual video game shows to watch.
It'll be interesting. And video games are a prime real estate that nobody has done for that correctly, at least.
Yes.
Or not. Well, some have done it, but you know what I mean. Speaking
of stuff, we got a much longer FNAF movie trailer. Did you watch this?
I did.
Michael, there's a lot of like things going on outside of the restaurant in this trailer.
But I think it's because they took a lot of the lore from the later game stuff and just tried adding it. Because the stuff I know was so little.
Yeah.
But the stuff they talk about, I'm like, a lot of this stuff is clearly from later games that I just never fucking played.
It's so weird seeing the actual things move around.
Yes.
Seeing the animatronics move around. And I think Amanda and I talked about this when they first came out, where it's like they've done such a good job making the animatronics look like they do in the games that in some cases they look really fake.
Yeah.
Because they're so game accurate.
Like, it's one of those things where you look at them, they're like, I would not have gone to a pizza place with them, even when they weren't.
This looks pretty all right. You know, the fact that it's going to be on Peacock and in theaters at the same time.
That's
I'm
true.
Like, hey, man, I'd watch that. It's got fucking what's-his-face in it, PETA from the Hunger Games.
Yeah, and there's the way the suits look and everything. It's just fucking crazy to me.
Yeah.
That they went that full into it. Because I was so, not worried, but I was so expecting them to like change the designs in some way.
Yeah.
But they didn't. And I think that's kind of interesting.
Expecting to go all full Willy's Wonderland.
Yeah. I think it looks interesting. I can't say it looks great because, again, I didn't keep up with the series.
Yeah.
I didn't keep up with its weird video game theory sort of things that came out over the years.
It's just a theory, Michael.
Yeah, it's just a theory.
A game theory.
But I think it has potential. But I don't know how much potential. So, because it's obvious they don't have a lot of stuff in it.
Yeah,
like there's like clearly like even in the trailer, there's only like 4 actors I see consistently through it.
Sure,
which is him, Matthew Lillard. I guess whoever I guess it's his sister, like the character,
the lady,
and then the cop lady.
Yeah,
and that's it.
Yeah, I don't know. It looks all right. Like I'm always. It's a good concept for a movie.
It is. There's a reason it worked for as long as it did, because it's the idea of what it is always been a scary thing.
Yeah.
For even people who grew up during that era.
Yeah. I mean, you know, what if the rocket fire explosion murdered you and you're like, well, they always kind of looked like they wanted to. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's see. We also got, apparently, Slenderman's making a comeback.
Really?
We got a teaser for called He's Waiting. And then there's a countdown site that is going for like 25 days probably from, I think, when we're recording this, for Slender the Arrival.
Oh, jeez.
And there's also a bunch of there were a bunch of updates to the branches on Steam.
Really?
To Slender the Arrival. So we think that there's going to be a probably a remaster of some sort that comes out pretty soon.
Yeah, it looks like they added a more detail to the way his face concaves, I guess.
Yep.
Which is kind of weird because it makes it look more like he has an actual face.
Yep.
Because he didn't really before. He was more like the Question.
Fucking Slenderman.
You got a lot of history with the Slenderman.
Yep, that's true. Let's see. We got a trailer for the final transmission DLC for the Callisto Protocol.
Did this already come out, or am I crazy?
This is the launch trailer for it.
Okay. I heard the ending is terrible.
The whole thing looks terrible to me. I actually just wanted to bring this up because I want to remind everybody that the Callisto Protocol is like a spectacular failure, right?
100%. And the way people describe the DLC, it sounds just as much as a spectacular failure.
Oh, really?
Because from what I hear, it only has like 2 actual cutscenes, and it's just like a bunch of terrible gameplay in between, and it ends in one of the worst fuck yous that anybody's ever seen to a video game.
Well, there you go. I haven't looked this up, but you guys
I
trust
saw the
Michael.
ending. I don't know anything about the game, but it still felt like a fuck you.
I also thought that was weird that what's his face was still here. That they were able to get.
Oh yeah, I don't know the actor's name, but
guy,
Transformers guy is the only thing I say what I know him from right away.
The Transformers guy either recorded all this stuff ahead of time for DLC, or they were able to get him to come back, I guess, because he wasn't doing anything. But like,
yeah, he's not like the biggest actor in the world, which is a shame because he's actually a pretty good actor. But I like him enough, which is why it's a shame that this game didn't work out.
True. They keep trying to make it a thing, and it's not really a thing. So.
Yeah, they failed spectacularly.
Speaking of incredibly horrible things that no person should ever have to lay their eyes on, Sonic Frontiers has a new birthday bash update for Sonic the Hedgehog. He's got like a party hat. There's like a photo mode. There's like a new game plus. If you want to take all your upgrades from Sonic Frontiers into new Sonic Frontiers, there was like a whole presentation of birthday stuff.
Guys. You love the Sonic the Hedgehog.
That new one doesn't look half bad. The one the 2D, the side-scrolling ones. Yeah, whatever the fuck it's called.
It doesn't look bad, actually, yeah, because it looks like a normal, it's what Sonic games were.
I was saying last week to Blake that it's like, I feel like poor Sonic fans have been watching for years as Sega is like, do you want a 3D Sonic game? And everybody's like, no. And they're like, great, here it is, and it sucks. And they're like, oh, that didn't sell very well. Should we make another 2D Sonic game? And everybody's like, yes. And they're like, here you go. And they're like, great, more of that. And they're like, okay, so we've just started a new 3D Sonic game. Are you guys psyched for that? And everybody's like, no.
And then they buy the 3D one anyways. And that's the reason the cycle continues.
Yep. God, this trailer makes me sad.
What makes me sad is that Sonic fans look at that and they're like, this is the hypest shit ever.
Yep.
And you're like, stop. Please stop.
June 23rd, that's coming out.
Just eat your chili dog and just stay in the corner.
We got a story trailer for the Disney Illusion Island.
Oh, okay.
Which is pretty cool. I figured out what keeps throwing me off about this game, Michael, is that when you look at the description for it, it is literally described as a Metroidvania.
Really?
Yeah, which I'm like, okay, that looks cool. And when you look at it, it definitely could be a Metroidvania. The problem is that every time they show this, they show like multiplayer. They show like 4 characters all going at the same time.
Yeah.
And that really puts me off because I don't want to play a multiplayer side-scroller game.
Well, it reminds me of whenever they show off the multiplayer, it reminds me of Rayman.
Yeah.
What was Legends, I think was the last one they made?
Yes.
It reminds
Origins and then Legends, yes.
Yeah, it reminds me specifically of that because it has that exact kind of art style almost.
Okay.
But I feel like they made it multiplayer purely because they know kids will want to play with like their friends or something. But I feel like an adult maybe will just be able to, go all in.
Because I like the weird ass art style. Like,
yeah, because it's based on the current cartoons.
Oh, okay.
Because they look like that currently.
I like that. Yeah, I like the way that it looks. So I'll be interested in trying it out. I don't know. We'll see.
Also, I wouldn't mind using Donald Duck the whole game.
Well, it looks like they all have different powers, right?
Yeah,
which is a cool idea.
It's funny. Kid me loved Mickey Mouse, but adult me fucking loves Donald Duck.
Yeah. Let's see. I'm gonna cut some of these. Hot Wheels 2 Unleashed. Hot Wheels Unleashed 2 looks great. It looks really good.
Hot Wheels has done a solid job at their games.
Yep. Mordhau is going to be released on the Xbox and the PlayStation.
Oh.
Like very soon. This is another one of those like medieval combat games. They had a trailer for it. July 12th it's coming out.
It's fun.
For PS4, PS5, Xbox Series SX, and One. Previously only PC. I think Matt and I played this when it came out.
That sounds right.
I can't remember, but this might be the one that had some really weird classes in it where you could be like a peasant or something like that.
I think it was this one, actually. If that sounds right. I remember watching something like that.
We got the first DLC for Atomic Heart. We got some more. We got a release date for it. And apparently the idea that it's all going to focus on the fucking weird sexual assault fridge
Oh,
from.
I wish I liked that game more. I really do.
Even this trailer, I watched it and I was like, oh man, maybe I should go back and play. I'm like, no, this is how they got you the first time.
It is.
Good trailers, bad gameplay.
I got farther than we did when we did the dojos for it. And I was like, you know what, maybe I was too harsh on it, but then I got to a point where it was like, no, we were right the first time.
I wasn't harsh enough.
Yeah, especially when I got to that point. Because fuck, man, that game fucking, it went out of its way to make me not like it.
August 2nd, that's coming out. Let's see. God, I really wish we had more time. Did you watch this thing about the Riot, the ex-Riot people?
I did not.
Okay, so Riot, Bungie, and Blizzard devs have come together to create a new game studio, and they're making this game called Project Loki. And what's better about this is that they talk a little bit about the ethos behind the company, but then they show it. And what this game is it's a cross between, what do they say it's a cross between? They did a really good job of describing it. It's a cross between, oh, yeah, there it is. Like Overwatch, and then like a MOBA, and then like Smash Brothers in a weird way. And that one part of it looks like Smash Brothers. So what it is it's a top-down MOBA, right?
Yeah.
But instead of being like an RTS, it's like an action game. So it's got these really good-looking characters. And when you look at it, it's a cross between a MOBA, a Battle Royale, and Smash Brothers. That's what I'm trying to say. So you squad up with people, right? And you're top down, but it's all real-time action. Like, not like click on a guy to do a thing, but like hit this button to attack.
Yeah.
But then it's got like some really interesting traversal mechanics, and then it looks like a big part of it is also that it all takes place on these floating islands, and that a lot you can kill people by instantly dumping them off the side, Smash Brothers style. So, and then like I looked at this, and when I first started looking at it, I was like, oh, this is a MOBA, never mind. But then the more I looked at it, the more I was like, you know, this actually looks like more fun. Like, it reminds me more of like that.
Well, it looks like a stick shooter too, or a twin stick shooter.
Yeah. And like it's got a really good art style because they've got some artists with some pedigree, so it looks kind of Overwatchy type of thing. It's got like environmental hazards, and the fact that it's an action game as opposed to like, I don't like the way in MOBAs because they're RTSs. It's like you have to keep like moving forward and back and moving forward and back.
There's a lot of like weird strategies involved that like if you don't do, you're just fucked.
But I recommend everybody go take a look at this because I think it looks like a cool take on Battle Royale plus MOBA.
It's also chaotic enough that this just looks like a lot of fun.
And then at the end, they talk about how like one of the things that they really want to do as a company is they want to take their player feedback like first and foremost. Like they really want player feedback, and they want to try to get what the things that people like they want to iterate on, things that people don't like they want to try to like fix them. So
good for them.
Yeah, it's called, the name of the company is called Theorycraft Games, and the video is called Introducing Project Loki. Check it out. Looks pretty cool. Let's see. The Switch got 4 Sega Genesis games.
Hooray.
Yep. Revenge of Shinobi, Landstalker, Ghouls and Ghosts, and Crusader of Senti.
I've heard of one of those games.
Crusader of Senti is like a Zelda thing that said. I don't remember this one.
It, yeah.
Ever.
I've never heard of this. Maybe it was a Japanese only thing. I don't know.
Possibly.
It happens sometimes with the Sega.
The Super Ghouls and Ghosts or whatever is the one with the gold armor that was on the Sega.
It still looks like it.
Shinobi 2, basically, was Shinobi 2.
Okay.
And
what's Landstalker?
Landstalker was like this isometric kind of action game. The guy's got the big feet.
Oh, okay.
I remember when it came out.
Yeah, I don't remember that at all. I remember. I have heard of Revenge of Shinobi, but yeah.
Yep.
That's interesting.
So those are
I'm glad they're still coming out with stuff because I was worried they were just going to dump what they had and then that was the end of it.
Let's see. We got some interesting Metal Gear news last week.
I heard about this, and I'm very excited if it's true.
Yes. It appears that we got some leaks about the Metal Gear Solid Collection Volume 2.
Yeah.
That will apparently, let's see, how did this work? There's a timeline page with the Master Collection.
It was the coding of
the
it.
page elements. You see placeholder buttons for MGS4, Metal Gear Solid Ground Zeroes, Metal Gear Solid 5, and Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker. and that all of those would be in the second collection. And that's big because it would mean for the first time Metal Gear Solid 4 was available to play outside of being on a PlayStation 3.
Or streaming, because that was the other thing.
Yes.
Because it was on PlayStation Now for a little bit.
Right.
And that sucked. And because streaming a game is a pain in the ass, and especially a game like Metal Gear Solid 4 where it's a lot of cutscenes. Yeah, that's just frustrating. And I saw somebody on Twitter because some people are kind of weird about Metal Gear Solid 4 because of the way it is. And somebody was just like, good luck playing it again, guys. I'm like, here's the deal, guys. I beat Metal Gear Solid 4 times before I ever owned a PS3. I went to my cousin's house and beat it twice. Yep. And when I lived with my friend, he had a PS3, and then I beat it twice again.
Sure.
And then I beat it the 5th time when I got a PS3.
Well, you only have to get through level 1 and level 2. Level 3 is a half a sneaking mission and then a turret section.
Pretty much, yeah.
And level 4 is mostly sneaking around Shadow Moses and then a kaiju fight. And then level 5 is just a shooting gallery.
I love that game. I love Metal Gear Solid 4 so much.
It's so batshit.
It's batshit insane.
It's batshit,
but it also ends with them going, and then we explained everything. And I was like, you did. And I don't know how you did, but you did.
Like, they explained everything in a game where a submarine comes up and it's got a Metal Gear Mount Rushmore carved into the side of it for some fucking reason. Like,
I love it.
The only thing about that game is I feel like I really wish that they would. This is the only time. Like, Jeff, I didn't know you were pro censorship, and I'm like, I'm not pro censorship. I'm pro fucking sadness. Like, can we lighten the B&B core stories up even a little bit? Like,
no, Jeff, it has to be like the ending of MASH.
Right? Like, I'm like, I don't want to beat. Like, after you beat the first boss, you're like, I don't want to. No, I don't want to.
You're like, hey, Snake, I'm going to tell you the saddest fucking thing you've ever heard.
Shut up.
And that's just the first one.
Who's the guy? Drebin. Shut up, Drebin.
Yeah.
You take your monkey and you get out of here. I don't want to know.
Shut the fuck up.
You shut up.
That's why I always trank them. I trank them every fucking time.
She just wants to give me a hug, and I want to give her a hug too. And just, it's going to be fine.
I also always played the iPod, so they'll dance first. God. So I could get that shot in first.
It's a very weird game. It's
I
a
fucking
very
love that
weird
game so
game.
much.
Yeah.
Also, I wonder if they would have edited out the iPod because it was straight up an iPod.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
It'll be cool. It'll be cool if it comes back out. I think. Yeah. I mean, like if they release that, I honestly think I'd have to do a dojo on it because literally. Never been able to play 4. I mean, I could play it now. I do have a functional PS3 that I can play it on.
It's hard to get through.
I'd love to get that shit running like high res on the PC and because and also Peace Walker. This fucking PC Gamer article throws some shade at Peace Walker.
You fuck you guys.
Go fuck yourself.
Peace Walker's great.
Peace Walker should have been Metal Gear Solid 5 instead of Metal Gear Solid 5.
I also hope Peace Walker gets the Monster Hunter missions.
Oh shit, yeah.
Because I love those missions.
Dude, I just hope you could play them online with other people.
That would be fun. I'd love that.
Yeah. Also, Red Dead Redemption might be coming to PC.
I heard about this too. My friend sent this to me.
South Korea's ratings board has been a
pesky South Korea ratings board, man.
Has kind of been a Nostradamus in the past for stuff. I think the Grand Theft Auto remasters
that
came out of the South Korean ratings board, and there's been a new trademark filed for Red Dead Redemption there, which indicates that they might be putting it out on the PC. I think that'd be a good move for Rockstar. Considering everybody's been asking for it for years, and they've been fucking everything up so hard recently.
They have, because my speculation is either PC or a PS4, PS5 release.
Yeah,
because the Xbox already has a way of playing them, whereas the PlayStation doesn't. Yep. So those are the only two things it could be.
Yep, I agree. Hopefully, we get it. And then last, let's
see him fuck it up and put it on a phone.
Let's go through a few things. A bunch of crazy students put ray tracing in Descent.
Oh, wow.
And then they put it on GitHub where anybody can download it.
Oh, I love that.
Because nobody gives a shit about Descent.
No, they don't.
It's funny because Descent looks pretty fly with ray tracing. Well,
that's the fun thing about ray tracing is you can make a lot of games look really fucking cool.
Yeah.
Like the first time you showed me Minecraft with ray tracing, I'm like, this game looks amazing.
Yeah. Although it's funny because I watched this trailer they put out, and I'm like, oh yeah, Descent sucked.
It was not great.
It was like it had this gimmick that you could go 360 degrees. But then, like, when you actually look at somebody playing Descent, it's like, you didn't have to do that. It was just some bullshit.
You just thought it was a good idea at the time.
Yeah. So, yeah, check out this channel is called DXX Ray Tracer. And then there's literally, you can get it on Oh God, I'm not doing 2FA. You can get it on GitHub. You go find it on GitHub yourself.
I'm sure it's in the description for the video.
Let's see.
Not our video, but the DX Tracer one.
We got one of the Bloodborne modders. One of the big Bloodborne modders, the guy that got stuff running, has gotten Bloodborne running on PS5 at 1080p at 60 frames per second without like up sampling or shader compilations, just like raw ass Bloodborne running at 60 frames per second, which is pretty cool.
It can be done, Sony. You hear me?
The thing is, I feel like everybody's like, Sony doesn't want to do it because it's so hard. And I'm like, Sony doesn't want to do it because they're waiting for a quarter where they have a dip in in numbers. Probably Bluepoint is already working on this shit.
I hope so, to be honest. Not Bluepoint. Bloodborne was the first time I was like, I get it. When I played a Souls game, it was like Frank at the end of that episode. Like, I get it now. I get it.
Did you see that episode?
I did. I don't get it anymore.
I don't get it anymore.
And I'm never going to get it now. Beads? Really?
Oh my God. I feel like that had to be the most fun episode for Danny DeVito of all time at the end where they're just like,
funny.
We're just going to need you to make a lot of fucked up faces, Danny.
It was so funny. That was such a great episode. You guys should watch the new season, guys.
Funniest thing about this trailer, or not funniest thing, but the thing that was interesting about this trailer was I realized that I missed Bloodborne because I played it, and God, I played it into the fucking ground. I played it over and over and over again.
I remember coming here after a night out, and you're like, watch me play Bloodborne drunk so much that it's like I know Ultra Instinct because you were just fucking not even looking at the screen half the time. Because you were explaining stuff to me and murdering things at the same time.
Just taking ass and killing names. Yeah, because I was watching this guy play the Father Gascoigne fight, and it's interesting to think of going back to Bloodborne after so much more, Dark Souls 3 and Sekiro and fucking Elden Ring and stuff.
I'll tell you what, Jeff.
What's
if
up?
Bloodborne ever comes out with a remaster or whatever, the two of us should just go through it.
The entire game?
Yeah.
I've already played with John.
Yeah, but you didn't do it with me.
Well, but I can't put out a second sequential of the exact same game.
I didn't say a sequential. I mean just us doing it.
Oh, okay.
What's wrong with you?
No, I thought we're talking about RageSelect.
I was saying let's co-op this bitch.
Oh, okay. All right. Fair enough. Yeah,
if you want to record it, I won't say against it.
No,
but, it'll be from your end.
I've had several gimmick characters. I made a Lady Maria character. I made a cleric character that used nothing but the big wheel. I played through most of the game with pretty much every single weapon and build that's possible.
I did the whole game with the cane whip the whole fucking way through.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, I loved it.
Fully viable.
Yeah.
It's funny because I played it, and the music and just like the sound cues of like when you hit the parry and just like crung and then like splash, like all that stuff.
It was the only Souls game that I was like, I love this shit. This is my jam.
Yep. So hopefully, I bet there's a remaster coming some point in the future. I bet there
I
is.
really want to because I never did the DLC. That was the other thing I never did.
DLC's
I had it, but I never did.
Some hard shit. Orphan of Kos. That's no messing around. But it does have one of the creepiest. FromSoft loves their tower full of books, creepy levels, and boy, there's one in there that is woo. Any hoozles. Last but not least. It would be a bad podcast if we didn't shoehorn in one meme. People have been putting the Grimace meme into video games.
This Grimace meme is one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life.
Yep. For anybody who doesn't know,
the amount of work that like the TikTokers do, but the amount of work that I've seen gaming companies do is also really amazing.
Yeah. So for anybody that doesn't know, this is like the thing where somebody does a thing and it's like a before and then after. At this point, though, the meme is that you drink the Grimace shake and then you die or are murdered by the Grimace.
It's either you die or something's like you're just like something's horribly has happened to you.
Yeah.
Like they're having seizures basically with the shake next to them.
Yeah. So it's a pretty easy meme because it just involves a character with some like purple in the first frame and then just like on the ground dead with purple around them in the second one.
It's really funny. But you should see the TikTok ones because those guys go through some elaborate shit.
I've seen some of them.
Well, I'm telling the audience to see them because they're really fucking funny.
But yeah, it's gone over into video games with some Final Fantasy 16 ones, some Final Fantasy 7 ones.
Oh yeah, the Spider-Man one got me real bad. The Street Fighter one's pretty funny.
I like this one from Final Fantasy VII where it's like this giant snake that's like impaled on a pole and it just happens to have purple blood, and then it's got a box where Cloud is like, did Grimace do this?
It's so funny. My favorite one I saw were the TikTok ones. It's a guy in like a parking lot doing it, and it cuts to him like clearly in a forest by himself, and like it has like the owl sound of like, and he's just like lying there like, and he's like wearing no clothes except for his underwear now all of a sudden. That's so fucking funny.
Anyway, go look him up.
Oh my god,
go look him up.
They're so much fun because even like the actual, because I think the actual Monster Hunter one came out with one too.
Oh really?
It was like the Gormagala, and it was like, don't drink that. It's like, and then it has like all the fucking purple shit flying off of it. I was like, I love this. I love this so much.
Nice. Yeah, that's the end of the show. We went over by 20 minutes, but that's what happens when I don't have...
And it goes to you, the consumer.
Yes. Look at all the extra value that you've
don't
got.
Sue us, FTC.
That's right. I'm going to start buying more podcasts and then just making them into this podcast. I'm just going to buy Watch Out for Fireballs. That's going to be RageSelect podcast. Buy Giant Bomb. Buy the IGN podcast. I'm just going to use my giant war chest to buy... I'm just kidding. I can't afford the Grimace Shake, okay? Michael, do you have anything? Do you like to tell the people about where they can find you?
You can find me on oneofus.net. I just had I did do a review for Indiana Jones. And I swore I did another review recently. I can't remember. Oh, I did. My Barry review's up.
Oh, there you go.
We finally got that up.
Cool. Yeah, if you're already here, you already know where you are. So maybe go to Patreon and give me money so I can afford the Grimace Shake. So I could do the Grimace Shake, John. Just kidding. I'm not going to do the Grimace Shake, John. I'm just going to drink it.
We'll never find you.
It's too unnatural. I don't want to.
Don't do it. Just don't do it.
If I'm going to drink something that's a primary color, I'm going to get it from fucking Taco Bell, not McDonald's, okay? That is the RageSelect promise. I'm going to buy Taco Bell, and they're going to be the RageSelect podcast. I'm going to make Taco Bell into the new RageSelect podcast. Whatever that means.